Your home for Kings talk and so much more.
Live and local.
Allen Stiles on Sacktown Sports.
Yes. It is official. Kyle, we're going to kick off that show right now, the Allen Stiles Show, with the breaking news banner. Let's get on into it. We're using it for real.
When it breaks,
we have it first.
It's Sacktown Sports breaking news.
The Sacramento Kings and interim coach Doug Christie are finalizing a multi-year contract to make Christie the franchise's next head coach, sources tell ESPN. Christie's agent, Andy Miller of Clutch Sports, negotiated a new deal for the Kings' full-time job this week. I don't see a ticker on the four-letter network. I don't see a ticker on Fox. Well, we got a ticker here at Sacktown Sports 1140. Doug Christie, 27 and 24. He dealt with a change in his position. He dealt with a change in his coaching staff. He dealt with a change with his GMs. He dealt with a change in his roster, managed to still cook up a winning record in one of the most ridiculous Western conferences than we've seen in a very long time. One of the most competitive Western conferences that we've seen in a very long time. And you have the Nuggets. You got the high-rising Oklahoma City Thunder. You got the Lakers who got Luka. You got the Timberwolves with Anthony Edwards. You got the Warriors getting Jimmy Butler. You got the upstart Rockets. And he still managed to end the season with a winning record. Now, was it perfect? And did Doug Christie make perfect decisions? No. But with everything that he had to deal with on the fly, I would say, and I've said this whole time, that he did earn the position. I also said, were there other names out here in these streets that maybe would have made my ears perk up a bit more than Doug Christie? Yes. But nobody was going to be surprised. We've been reporting it for weeks now, whether it's the insiders, Brendan Nunes, Frankie Cardicelli, Chris Watkins, whether it's the morning show, whether it's the afternoon show, the drive guys. We all knew that this was probably going to be the case. And now it is basically official as they are finalizing a deal. Doug Christie, the guess is, if you're curious, the guess is that Doug Christie will get 2 years with a third-year option. That is the educated guess from everyone that I've spoken to. And the reality is, and we can have this conversation throughout the next 4 hours, whether or not it is actually that. Is this a year tryout masked as a 2-year deal with a 3-year option? Now, we don't have the details yet, but that is how a lot of those close to the situation are feeling. What it's going to be, we will have that. I would assume there's going to be a presser at some point. Another assumption that it will be during our show, so we will have that for you. Early odds on when that will be, I'm hearing Thursday or Friday, not today, maybe tomorrow, but those that I've talked to close to the situation, probably Thursday or Friday. And when that happens, assuming it's during our show, we will do our best to have that for you. Kyle will put on his Mr. Robot hat and tech it out for us and make sure that we take care of business. On a day like today, the phone lines are going to be open all day long, 916-339-1140. How do you feel about Doug Christie being named the head coach? I would assume that a lot of you are a bit torn because that's how I feel right now, and I haven't been out here for 2 decades like a lot of our loyal listeners, because you're happy for Doug, but is there a little voice in the back of your head thinking, oh man, it would have been nice to see who else would be out there? Now, I wasn't high on Doc Rivers. Last week, we did the phone call game where different prospective coaches called in, and I pretended to be Scott Perry, and I either hung up or I took the call. Ultimately, there weren't a lot of coaches that I answered the call for. But you did have now the Sam Cassells of the world, also no head coaching experience. So would you go in that direction, Or do you go in the retread direction? I heard a lot of people talking about Van Gundy, who's been doing great stuff with the Clippers. Terry Stotts, an assistant coach right now with plenty of experience. Yesterday, we talked about Doc Rivers. But ultimately, the pulse of the city, the pulse of the team, I'll put it to you like this. The connection to Domantas Sabonis is obvious. They have been very open about it. Domantas Sabonis, Doug Christie was essentially his personal coach during the summers. Domantas Sabonis seeking clarity. I can guarantee you that was something that was going to come up. So sometimes you do things. Look, we all know that ownership like Doug Christie, that's been well documented from The Athletic. It was honestly documented on this station prior to that article, either via Sam Amick or otherwise. There's no real surprise there. So the opportunity to keep your best player happy and also keep the coach that you want if you're ownership, again, not a huge surprise, but it is now official. And now it's time to get to work. What happens to the Leandro Barbosa of the world? What happens to the Jay Trianos of the world? What happens to the coaching staff? We have two staffs being built right now. We have Scott Perry trying to build up his staff, and a lot of the previous regime staff was in the building for Scott Perry's presser. And then you have an interesting situation with Doug where it's not as if he's getting this job cold turkey and's got to build it from scratch. He went to war with these guys. He went to war with these assistant coaches. And those who didn't want to be here left the conversation. I don't know if there are any others. We'll see. I don't know if there'll be any reporting on, so-and-so has decided to go here or go there when it comes to the assistant coaches. But Luke Laux, again, all on record, very close with Mike Brown. Luke Laux did not want to be a part of what was happening. Luke Laux, honestly, probably felt like he got leapfrogged, if we're being 1,000 with it. Doug Christie was the fourth chair. You got Jay Triano, you got Luke Laux. So you leapfrog someone, I know personally, I'd feel some type of way. So Luke Laux said, you know what? I'm out to Tallahassee. You don't got to worry about me. So Doug Christie has to figure out who's riding with me, who just wanted to remain on an NBA staff and is now going to go somewhere else. Because as Scott Perry has talked about, as Doug Christie has talked about, Scott Perry said what? I want volunteers. I don't want prisoners. I want volunteers. So Scott Perry, in conjunction with Doug Christie, they're going to figure out who wants to be here. Who wants to be here? If you don't want to be here, that's fine. And that's from the coaching staff, that's from the exec team, and that's from the roster. If you don't want to be here, let me know. Let's weed it out now. We talked so much yesterday about Shedeur Sanders. Remember what happened when Deion showed up in Colorado? I brought my own bags and they Louis. Now, Deion wasn't asking. He was telling people to leave, but the same idea. We are creating something new here. We are creating something new. If you want to be a part of it, let me know. That's not to say that you're going to be a part of it, but let's first weed out those who don't want to be here. If you are not riding with the Sacramento Kings, if you are not trying to get up on that building and look at that beam and look at the city as if it's Gotham and we are the collective Batman, then you can keep it pushing. No harm, no foul. That's how I feel. They feel with Wes Wilcox, my Chipotle buddy, and with Luke Laux out there in Tallahassee. Hey, it is what it is. Didn't work out. Thank you for your service. We'll see you when we see you. So that's the first thing that Doug has to do. And from Scott Perry's side of things, this was the main situation. And I see the text coming in, and we got the calls, whether or not it was Scott Perry's decision. Honestly, we'll never know. We will never know. I can sit here and say, I don't think it was, but I don't have that information. What we do know is that Vivek has really liked Doug Christie, that he's still paying Mike Brown, who is still chilling in Sacramento, by the way. He pops up every now and then. My mom and my wife actually ran into him. Still paying him. So this was the direction that we all believe ownership wanted to go in. And I also believe that Scott Perry knew that when he took the job. So there's nobody to necessarily be upset with. When you go into a relationship, everybody jokes about, I think Neo is running around with 2-3 girlfriends, and Nick Cannon got about 17, 18 kids, and everybody jokes about it. But how these guys go about it is everything is in the open. That's their sell. I have 3 other girlfriends. So you know what you're signing up for. So Scott Perry is sitting there willing to take this job, and I would be very surprised if the head coaching conversation didn't come up, and if he took the job thinking the way he answered all the questions during the press conference is exactly how you're supposed to do it. He's been in the media. Shout out Hoop Genius. We know that. But if you think that Scott Perry took this job without knowing that that it would very much help his situation if he went in the direction that Vivek wanted, then you're kidding yourself. I think that he knew what was going on, which to me makes it okay. I don't think Scott Perry took this job thinking, cool, I'm going to have this full-blown search, and he's doing this presser last week, and he truly believes that, and Vivek says, oh, actually, you got to take Doug. We already all knew that. He played the game, Scott Perry did. He played the game so well, he had people like me and Chris Watkins convinced that it was that it was going to be a search. Now, I will say this. That's not to say that Scott Perry didn't have a list and that list just didn't work out. What I've been saying is that Scott Perry, I believe, had a wish list of it can't be more than 3 names. And he said he was taking calls last week. If it didn't, and I think that Vivek maybe gave him a green light on that wish list. I don't know if that's Van Gundy. This is just me coming up with this on my own. Because I do think that Vivek also wanted to make Scott Perry feel like he had some power. So Scott Perry spent the rest of last week and the front end of this week calling whatever that list was. And once it was deemed that nobody on that list, it wasn't going to work out with any of them, okay, cool, let's go with Doug Christie. I believe that could be the case. So maybe Scott Perry had a little bit of power, but he went into this role understanding that unless you hit a grand slam, it's going to be Doug. And like I said, if everybody's on the same page, then that's no problem to me. You don't have to agree with it as Kings fans, and that's why we're here, 916-339-1140, but that's how I believe it went down. So what is next for Doug Christie? What is next for Scott Perry? We got you for the next 4 hours. We also have a lot of news around the NBA. KD and Spurs rumors are starting to heat up. Speaking of heat, what's going to happen with the Heat? Could the Kings slide in there? Or are the Heat going to try to retool that? They have a ton of money expiring. 4 hours with you. We're still reacting to Doug Christie as head coach. Your calls, your texts. Shout out to Sack Chat. Allen Stiles, Sacktown Sports.
On the move? Got somewhere to be?
Take Sacramento Kings basketball with you. The Sacktown Sports app will let you stay connected to your passion. Never miss a moment of Sacramento Kings basketball with the Sacktown Sports app.
Attention! If you owe money to the IRS, this is an urgent message. The IRS is cracking down by sending out collection letters, garnishing paychecks, seizing bank accounts, and putting liens on homes and businesses. They call it enforced compliance, and you better watch out because penalties and interest on unpaid taxes compound daily, making it even harder to get out of debt. Don't let tax debt destroy your life. You need to call Optima Tax Relief, America's #1 tax resolution firm. They're experts in taxpayer career assistance programs that can save you thousands if you qualify. A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau, Optima's resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. Let them fight on your behalf, helping to put your tax problems to rest. Call the tax professionals at Optima now for a free consultation.
Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Allen Stiles. Watch the show on youtube.com/Sacktown Sports 1140.
Or listen on the Sacktown Sports app.
Some people are torn on the decision to keep Doug Christie. A lot of people, and it's the same with the Scott Perry thing, a lot of people are just unhappy with the process of things. Not necessarily where they got and where they are, but the process of things. You know, what's interesting about the Scott Perry quote-unquote process is I don't really know. It wouldn't just be Vivek on his own, but obviously he would, I would assume, have the final say. There are other names that are on Vivek's team that aren't the exec team, but they kind of help out ownership, if you will. But I would say this, as far as the Scott Perry process, if you're not happy with Vivek making decisions, then it really doesn't matter what the process looked like anyway, because he would be the one doing that hiring. So the Scott Perry piece of, I could see more of an argument with the Doug Christie lack of process and the Scott Perry lack of process, because the owners and that upper tier above the exec team, that is who was going to hire Scott Perry anyway. So the process was always going to be Vivek. So the process and a lot of people, even the insiders that I had on the show, oh, it's the process this. It's Vivek when it comes to hiring the GM. So what does the process really matter, right? It's still him, even if he interviewed other people, it's still him essentially making the decision. So who really cares? Now, when it comes to Doug Christie and that process, when it comes to a coach that's going to be handling the players day in, day out, that I could see more of an argument with. And I found it interesting, and we spent some time on this, and I was confused on whether I was getting caught up with semantics or not. I talked to Carmichael Dave. I talked to Kyle, of course. I talked to a couple others around the league, close to the situation. Hey, when Chris Haynes, you have been briefed, when Chris Haynes said, hey, it's either going to be Doug, we're going to find out whether it's Doug or not, or we're going to find out if they are opening it up.
This is Chris Haynes.
Thank you, Chris.
You've been briefed.
That's what confused me a little bit, as far as, they can't open it up, but then go back to Doug and say, hey, we looked around and we still want to think it's you. Ultimately, none of it mattered, and that's what I was told when I asked some of these people, Alan, don't get caught up on it. It's going to be Doug. So just don't waste your energy. Okay. And I said that here on these airways last week. So with that being said, I believe that you could have more of a gripe with that. You could have a gripe with whatever you want. I don't police fandom, but you could have more of a gripe with how they hired Doug Christie than Scott Perry, because ultimately Scott Perry, the GM, was going to be Vivek's decision anyway. How he goes about it, whatever. So Doug is the guy now. 916-339-1140. 530, Joe from the 530 says, Alan, stop it. The fix was in. Vivek wanted Doug, and Scott Perry had to be good with it. Same old Kings. Joe from the 530. Exactly. But if Scott knew that, we can be upset with it, but it is just kind of what it is, right? Scott Perry didn't get duped. They still had to go about this in a way where and they never opened it up. It's not as if, would you be more upset if they opened it up and went Doug? At least in this situation, they're being straightforward. Everybody is already out. Sam Amick and The Athletic wrote about how much I love Doug. Fine. I'm just, you called a spade a spade. I want Doug. I'm going to get a GM that's good with Doug, and we're going to see what happens. And if y'all know me, I'm talking as Vivek now, if Doug doesn't do it, I'll can him because I don't care. and I'm paying Mike Brown right now. So would you feel better if they opened it up and interview Van Gundy and interview Doc Rivers and interview Taylor Jenkins and go with Doug? No, I think you'd be more upset. At least he was straightforward about it.
Okay, so here's where I would agree with Joe from the 530, because you mentioned earlier, do we know for certain that Vivek had the mandate of Doug Christie being the head coach? No, we cannot say, reporting credibly, factually, yes, we know that. No. However, it looks, if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, we can probably call it a duck. They had no open coaching search. We knew about Vivek's infatuation with Doug Christie going back to the last time they had an open coaching search with Alvin Gentry. No names, maybe they did phone calls, but no names were associated with formal interviews. Mm-hmm. So therefore, it appears the coach was decided before the general manager was hired, and this was a term and condition of that position. Even if for some reason it wasn't, I don't think you're going to be able to convince Kings fans that it wasn't. Mm-hmm. Even if we don't know for sure, you're not going to be able to convince us, no, this was a completely, transparent process, etc. But
I don't think that's what they're trying to sell. That, I guess that's my, I don't think confusion is the right word, but I don't think they were trying to me, they never tried to sell it. I guess Scott Perry did in the presser when he said, my phone is ringing incessantly and we'll see. But isn't that his job?
Yes and no.
Is he supposed to get up there and say, I mean, there are certain things that you can't say at your job, right? Scott Perry can't say.
No, I agree. I think Kings fans are discernible in that respect, but you don't got to lie to our face. Like, we knew what it was. Did he lie? He did not, but you making it seem like
he's not a lie.
No,
he took calls. They didn't even open it up.
But that's the point, is if we know, again, we can't say for certain they didn't open it up. We don't know. But everything.
No, they didn't open it up.
That's what I'm saying. There were no names that reported to come in. Did Scott take calls with other people? We don't know. But I'm saying it appears like they did not open up the coaching search. So if that's the case, you don't have to whittle around it. Just, it would be better if you were more transparent about it.
So. And Kyle is kind of playing the role as speaking for fans that I guess are just upset at the process. So are you saying that if this was the situation, why have Scott Perry essentially fake it and just at the presser say we're going to move forward with Doug? Or just be more transparent on how, quote unquote, good they felt about Doug? Because he didn't do that at all.
I just don't understand why. That's the only part of it is
because that's what I'm telling you, though.
Remember we talked about last week, they could have had the 2 microphones, the 3 microphones.
No. I understand that. This is what I'm telling you. This is what I said to kick off the show. I think that there was a wish list. I do. I think that Vivek said, I'll give you 2 names. I'll give you 3 names. You nail one of those names and fine. If you don't nail one of those names and you got a week, right? You nail one of those names, you can move forward with them. You don't, it's Doug. And I think that's why I don't think he was lying. Now, I don't know. You don't know. Nobody knows. Yeah. But I feel like if I'm Vivek, both sides are trying to pick their battles, right? And you have Scott Perry trying to pick his battle and say, fine, Vivek wants Doug, and I'll go with Doug. What if there are 2 names on a list, and if I can get them, and there's some home run names, would you be willing to entertain those? And you have Vivek on the other side. I'm trying to pick my battles. Yeah, sure. If it's like if you're a parent, right? Hey, Allen, if you get straight A's, yeah, I'll buy you a Benz or whatever. And you're just banking on the fact that Allen stinks at math and he's not getting straight A's, but at least maybe he'll get a B+, whatever it is, and I don't have to buy him a Benz. And both sides essentially feel like they got an opportunity. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, I agree with that point, that is a possibility. My only point is, I don't know how you're going to be able, not you, the proverbial Scott Perry, Vivek Ranadive, how the Kings are going to be able to convince you of that when like we said before, it looks like they did because we didn't hear any names, because we didn't hear any interviews, and because the timeline matched up exactly with what Scott Perry said at the presser. Yeah. How are you going to be able to convince us that that was the case? I don't think,
unless you're not going to give out names. And look, I could be completely wrong. I could have, and not that I would feel like I'd be duped because I kind of created this in my own head, but maybe it was Doug all along and Scott Perry never got one phone call. That is very possible. We'll never know. All I know now is that it's Doug Christie, the best player on the team. You essentially, I would be surprised, you never know, if Domantas Sabonis asks out because Doug Christie and him are very close. So we're starting to fill in the pieces here. Feels like Domantas Sabonis is probably going to stay. I don't think that they're going to be able to move Zach LaVine, so that's two guys here.
Well, and remember, Draper said last week Zach LaVine went to management and said, yes, we want to keep Doug as the coach.
We played that sound. So we're way over time. We'll be back in about 3 minutes, continuing to break all this down. We discuss what Doug Christie did during his tenure as interim head coach. Your calls, your texts, your Sack Chat, 916-339-1140. Allen Stiles, Sacktown Sports.
The Sacktown Sports 1140 newsletter right to your email. Get your latest on the Sacramento Kings, athletics, and Republic FC with the Sacktown Sports 1140 newsletter. Visit sacktownsports.com to join.
Power Business Technology is proud to be a 100% independent, locally owned and managed Toshiba copier dealer. Local ownership cuts out the red tape, allowing ourselves to never be too busy to personally answer the call when our clients need us. Recognized for excellence in service execution, training, and customer service, we're proud to be named a Toshiba ProMasters Elite Dealer since 2021. Contact us today for all your business printing needs at 844-POWER-BZ. That's 844-769-3729 or visit us at powercopiers.com.
Sacramento Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has the best truck on the market, the 2025 Ram 1500. And that's not an exaggeration. It's proven. It's the 7th time Ram has won the Motor Trend Truck of the Year. Car and Driver named it one of its 10 best vehicles of 2025, giving it a 10 out of 10. And at J.D. Power, it's #1 when it comes to brand vehicle quality. And hey, yeah, all that's great. But where Sacramento Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram really separates themselves from the pack is their car buying experience. Come on in and see for yourself why they say it's where a handshake still means something.
Sacramento River Cats baseball is here, and the Cats Pass is your all-access pass to the full 2025 season. Enjoy access to every single home game at Sutter Health Park at unbeatable value. Cats Pass holders receive access to the Sky River Casino Solon Club on select dates, along with upgrades and guest options. Join us for unbeatable value with the Sacramento River Cats all season long. Get your Cats Pass today at rivercats.com.
What sets Ashton & Price apart from other injury law firms? I'll tell you. From beginning to end, all important legal decisions are made directly between our clients and their experienced local attorney. A gate agent flying the plane, the receptionist performing surgery, not a chance. There's simply no substitute for the unique power of the direct attorney-client relationship offered by Ashton & Price. And there's never a fee until we win, and between you and me, we win a lot.
Remember, for the best advice, don't think twice. Call Ashton & Price.
Allen Stiles
You can join the show by texting 916-339-1140
on Sacktown Sports.
916-339-1140. Going to get to some of your calls and your texts. From the 916, Doug hire is so Kangs when you consider the larger context that the org is at one of its lowest points in history. This won't age well. He will be fired next summer at the latest. Okay. Look, that could be the case, right? Is this a nice way to give Doug another year? We'll see when they said multi-year, so we'll see how many years he gets. But we know what just happened. What, Mike Brown lasted 2.5?
2.5.
2.5?
Well, not even technically. He only made 31 games this year.
Yeah. So maybe it is that. But I would probably agree that Doug earned that. The better argument, I guess the argument to that is, did you miss out on a certain coach by giving Doug this year. There's always going to be a coach looking for a job. That's what I would say. Is Van Gundy going to get picked up? I don't know. And you know what? The coaching thing is interesting because it's very similar to how fans and listeners will react to players, right? I don't want Kyle Kuzma. I don't want Cam Johnson. I don't want D'Angelo Russell. I don't want D'Angelo Russell. But I don't want any of these guys. And then it turns into, well, who do you want realistically? You don't want Giannis. Yesterday, we're going to talk about DeJounte Murray today, our trade target. Are you kidding me? That's embarrassing. Is it? Okay, let's talk about Kyrie. That realistic? So it starts to come down to what coaches. The only coach that I've consistently seen people talk about is Van Gundy. And he is another one on the coaching carousel. He goes to the Clippers. The Clippers, again, I'm not taking anything away from Van Gundy. Let's go through the defense that the Clippers have. Oh, my gosh, he went and transformed the defense. They got Kawhi. I know James Harden is a traffic cone. They got Kawhi Leonard. They got Chris Dunn, who is one of the best on-ball guard defenders in the league. They got Derek Jones Jr., okay? So I think Van Gundy is doing a great job. Would he be able to transform Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, and Malik Monk into that? Maybe they'd be better. So I think we get infatuated with names on teams with success, and that's fine. But then there are also a bunch of names. When I said Doc, nobody wanted Doc. I don't want Doc either. When I said Taylor Jenkins, oh, well, he was with the Grizzlies. They didn't really do much. When I said Frank Vogel, I don't want Frank Vogel. When I say Mike Budenholzer, I don't want Mike Budenholzer. When I say Sam Cassell, well, Sam Cassell doesn't have any head coaching experience either. Okay. So maybe it is just a 1-year situation, but I would say that Doug has done enough to earn that. I don't really have a problem with this, honestly, because the Kings are so far gone that 1 year to see if Doug can maybe figure some things out, and Scott Perry in a year where a lot of these teams are in limbo and in flux. Hey, why not? Why not? You can argue the process, sure, but I would prefer someone to be real. And I know, like the Scott Perry, what he said at the presser, I don't really care because I'm not going to use the word lie, but GMs and coaches say what they need to say all the time. So that is not a Scott Perry thing. Past that, we get through this next year. We weren't turning it around. The Kings weren't going to the Western Conference Finals next season. I'm sorry. They weren't, regardless of what coach they got. Vivek likes Doug. I believe there was a wish list. They didn't get to the wish list. Let's see what Doug can do. If Doug does not work out, if Doug stinks, he will get canned. And then Scott Perry can say, okay, Vivek, I played nice. Now I get to, it's a win-win. Either Doug Christie is actually a good coach or they move on from Doug. I don't think it's a situation where Doug Christie struggles next season and they keep Doug Christie. I don't.
I agree with that. And I also agree with, people are talking about the timeline of it all. Aligning everything with the summer of 2026 to make those decisions actually is a more concrete timeline, because then you would have, again, we've mentioned it before, Sabonis, 2 years left on his deal. You got to decide at that point, are we keeping this going or are we breaking it up? Keon Ellis, free agent. Keegan Murray, restricted free agent. Zach LaVine, player option he can opt out of if he hates it here. If Doug does have a year-to-year contract, you have a chance to hire a new coach in 26. Next summer is the chance where if they want to tear this thing down, there's a clean break, and Scott Perry can put his imprint on the roster.
Yes.
I agree with aligning that timeline and giving them a year to see if they can make this work. I guess my only counterpoint would be I understand the people who say, I don't think it's going to work, so let's just start that now.
Just start it now.
I understand people who feel that way, even if I disagree with the assessment, and all of it seems like that's the direction they're headed, because yesterday on Wednesday, Brennan Nunez came in here an hour after the presser, sat in that chair, and said, it's going to be Doug. Like everything he heard said it was going to be Doug. After the presser, he thought it was going to be Doug, and now it's going to be Doug. So maybe they have that timeline of that you've got 1 year.
Right.
Sabonis, Levine, Doug, and Keegan, and others. You got 1 year to see if you can make this work.
Yes, and look, we've all, and I know it's never enough. You can never bag on ownership enough. We get all that, but we understand that when someone is the boss and somebody's the owner, that's what it is. Okay? That's what it is. With that being said, Scott Perry may have come to an agreement. You get a year, okay? We both get it. We both get certain things. You get Doug for a year. You get this group for a year. This is how the contracts line up. If it works out, great. We'll continue to cook. I'll see what I can do. I'll work around the edges. I'll get you a Dennis Schroeder or Tyus Jones, whatever the case may be, and we'll see what we can do. After that happens, if it doesn't work out, if it works out, great. Like I said, these are win-wins in their mind. I'm not saying two Kings fans, but in their mind, these are win-wins. If it works out with Doug and the team actually figures it out, great. We'll continue to rock and roll. If it doesn't, Scott, you get the opportunity to get your coach to, and I know, look, that'll be another head coach. I get that, but it would align with, hey, what is Domantas Sabonis doing anyway? Here's another year. Zach LaVine, who knows what would have happened with that season? How does he look? He's got that player option. So it all kind of aligns there, even if it's too much to the chagrin of some of the Kings fans out there. And I would also say that with the decisions that have been made so far, you are looking at a team that has an opportunity to pick up on other teams that are in similar situations to them. The Kings are viewed worse than the Heat, than the Bucks, and a couple other teams that are in limbo out there. But the reality is they're all trying to wheel and deal and see what pieces miss. Hey, well, it's like bartering, right? Is why it's called trading. Hey, well, I got enough wings, but you need a wing and I need a point guard. Here, why don't we do this? So this is the perfect time for that. And Doug and Scott Perry, look, people said it themselves during Scott Perry's presser. To be fair, and this is why I'm just not that upset about the quote unquote process. How many people texted in and called in after the presser saying, it sounds like what Scott Perry wants in players is exactly what Doug Christie is looking for in players. It's the same thing. So we know they align there. Now, like I said, that aligns with a lot of coaches. I'm not going to front. But we know it aligns there. So since it aligns there, that's better than what we had prior with Monty McNair wanting to be the run and gun Globetrotters or the Warriors from up 80, and Mike Brown wanting to get some defensive players, and then you get Sasha Vezenkov pooping on Mike Brown. So at least we know that they're aligned. At least we know they're aligned there. We got Ismail, who wants to be a part of the conversation. Kick off the phone calls, 916-329-1140. If you want to be part of the conversation. What's up, Ismail? What you got for us?
Hey, how are you guys doing?
Good.
Yeah, so I was just going to talk about the hire. So in a vacuum, I don't hate Doug Christie as a head coach at all. I thought he did a pretty good job with the hand he got, especially coming in the middle of the season with a lot of turmoil. And as we found out, some personality clashes within the team and the organization. But I don't like the hire being made before a traditional interview process went on. I just think it's hard to believe Scott Perry came in and just happened to believe that the best man for the job for the team happens to be a former Kings player. Because we know Vivek really makes an effort to surround himself with sort of Kings nostalgia to try to keep fans on side, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So Scott Perry, as an outsider of the organization, coming in and thinking, you know what, I've been all over the NBA. I have connections. I have a phone Rolodex that, can go across the room. I just happen to think sight unseen. I've worked with this guy maybe like briefly, maybe met him a few times.
Mm-hmm.
This is the best head coach that I want to get this era off with. And we're talking about making changes around the edges, which is like, hey, maybe we get Tyus Jones, maybe we get Dennis Schroeder to play point guard. That gets us to what level? That's like a move to get us to 43 wins or something.
No, I don't disagree. I don't disagree with you, Ismail. Stay on the line, because my question and what I've been saying is, do you feel differently? Because this is what I've been saying. I just don't think that Scott Perry took this job and then Vivek said, hey, by the way, you got to hire Doug. Does it make you feel differently if Scott Perry knew it when he took the job? Because I don't know how long you've been listening, but what I think is, I think that he had a wish list. Scott Perry did a very highly touted wish list that Vivek greenlit. And if he didn't get those guys, it would be Doug Christie. And I believe there was an understanding before Scott Perry took the job. And with that being said, you could still disagree with the process, but wouldn't that make you feel a little bit better? I just don't think that Scott Perry walked in and gave that presser and then Vivek said, oh, by the way, you have to hire Doug Christie.
Oh no, I agree. I don't think he was blindsided at all. I think that he took the job knowing that, you know, whether it's, as you described, like a short-term thing, like, hey, we're going to try to see if this works or what have you. I'm just saying, I don't like the idea of a GM coming in year one. And even if he's told it's short-term, having a head coach placed on you, especially when it's a GM that has like connections around the league, I just think that's more onus, more decisions being put on the shoulders of Vivek, who I think should literally be as out of the way as humanly possible for an owner at this point. I think he meddles too much, and I don't think he does it in like a negative, like a Dan Snyder way or something, like one of these horrible owners see around the league. I think he means well. That's why he goes to these former Kings players, stuff like, hey, maybe people will like this, but from a basketball like understanding, I think he needs to be like literally banned from the building almost at this point for the decisions he's made.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Ismail. That was great stuff. Call in whenever you feel like it's the right time. Look, with it being said, I hear what you're saying. It really just comes down to whether or not people would want it to come off as a fake interview process, which could be worse, or they just say, hey, you know what it is. It's been reported what it is. We're riding with Doug until we're not. And that might be just 1 year. Is this a good situation for Doug? Let's answer that question when we return. Allen Stiles, Sacktown Sports.
Did you know your skin is the largest organ of your body? That's why you should shower with Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash instead of plain old bar soap. Love your skin by super hydrating it with vitamin B3 and glorious notes of vanilla and shea. Did you know that my super hydrated skin is the second largest organ of my body?
It's Carmichael Dave talking to you about my good friends at American Energy. You're in the Sacramento area. You know how the seasons work. They are a-changing right now. So American Energy wants to help you stay warm for the rest of the cold season, but help you stay cool during the warm season. Best way to do that, make sure your system is operating safely. So right now is the time to take advantage of half off a tune-up, $24.50. They cut that right in half, and if you want a diagnostic, guess what? You can't beat free. If it's free, it's me, and now it can be you. And also, it's the end of the season blowout. $4,000 off a new system plus any rebates. That $4,000, that's a direct drop from the sticker price. It's a great deal. Check them out at theaeway.com or an instant quote, or give them a call at 916-520-9990. That's 916-520-9990. Tell them your good buddy Carmichael Dave sent you.
Call 916-520-9990 now.
Sacramento's premier country music festival, Country in the Park, is coming back May 16th and 17th at Cal Expo with Bailey Zimmerman, Billy Currington, Cole Wetzel, Nate Smith, and more. You'll enjoy food trucks, rock walls, and a mechanical bull, line dancing, and more. Single-day GA tickets start at $52 at CITPFest.com. Country in the Park, May 16th and 17th with Sky River Casino, Hop Valley Brewing, and Naturewood Home Furnishings. Find out more at CITPFest.com.
Ralph Barbosa. I just don't like going to church, man. I don't like the people there. Like, if those are the people that are going to be hanging out in heaven, I just go to hell.
Renee Vaca. Mexican, though, man. Stereotypical Mexican. When Donald Trump called the drug dealers, though, all right, he got his ass.
The Butterfly Effect Tour, Friday, May 23rd. The venue at Thunder Valley. For tickets, visit ThunderValleyResort.com. Don't miss Ralph Barbosa and Renee Vaca.
It's the final days of the spring sales event. Drive home your new Honda before the deals and the new Hondas disappear. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop.
Looking to own or lease? During the spring sales event, drive a brand new Accord or Civic. Visit us today at FolsomLakeHonda.com, your one-stop Honda shop.
As a family-owned and operated dealership since 2009, customer service is our number one priority. Our customers love doing business with us, and you will too.
Folsom Lake Honda, yeah, your one-stop Honda shop.
Spring has sprung, and now is the best time to spruce up your home. Between spring cleaning and evaluating your home, it is the perfect time to reach out to the folks at the Overhead Door Company of Sacramento. Jason Ross here, and I'm so glad we did. We reached out, and we're now about a month in to our brand new garage doors. Now, first off, we improved our curb appeal. They look great, and it's one of the first things people notice when they approach your home. A new, modern, stylish garage door can improve the overall appearance of your home, just like it did for us. Also, how about this for a nice benefit? The return of investment. A new garage door is high on the return of investment home improvement project list. It's one of the more cost-effective upgrades you can make to improve your home's value. Hey, see for yourself. Check out their products. Go to the showroom at 6756 Franklin Boulevard and ask about the Sacktown Sports Special. Overhead Door Company of Sacramento, the genuine, the original overhead door. Always look for the red ribbon logo.
Live and local.
It's Allen Stiles
on Sacktown Sports.
Only 30 of these positions. And Doug Christie got one. The one. I would say Doug's dream job. A lot of people don't get to do it the way Doug did it, right? He's really only knows the Sacramento Kings.
Well, in his post-playing career, I would say.
Right.
Because he got traded a couple times.
As a coach.
Oh, yeah.
All he knows is the Kings.
Allen, he was sitting in that chair 4 years ago, and now he's the head coach of the Sacramento Kings.
I'll see you in 4 years.
4 years, Allen Stiles, the midday show host at KHTK to Sacramento Kings head coach pipeline.
It continues. I will see you in 4 years, and we will play defense. And I'm going to buy some mirrors as well and have it. And I bought Kyle a mirror. I did. So he can look himself in the face before every show.
Look at my beautiful flowing hair.
Before every single show. Look, man, the more I think about it, it is a word that we tend to use with the Kings a good bit, a unique situation in that I think understanding other organizations does matter. And this is what I would say. I don't think that I would take Doc Rivers over Doug. I've been out here in Sacramento, and maybe my lenses are getting more and more purple by the day. But I think here's the issue with why certain fans maybe aren't thrilled. I think certain fans are. But there's a difference between, honestly, how people reacted to the Scott Perry hire. A lot of people said, no, this is, you had Draymond Green and others. No, this is a home run. This is a home run hire for the Kings. He's a great basketball mind. I don't think that anybody is going to say this is a home run hire for the Kings, because in order for something to be considered a home run hire, it means that you turn down somebody else. Doug had really no leverage. Nobody else was going to hire Doug Christie as a head coach this summer. Nobody. Okay? So how much you care about the national media and the basketball world, you can go back and forth. But because of that, nobody is going to call this a home run hire. What people are going to say is exactly what I've been saying. I think Doug Christie did a good enough job to keep the position and to extend, I don't want to call it a tryout because it's a multi-year deal, but to extend his tryout to see whether this is going to work or not. Because who knows what's going to happen after next summer. We know how this team gets down.
We don't know what's going to happen at the trade deadline next year.
And I always say it's easier to exceed expectations than to meet them. And I would say that Doug Christie exceeded expectations. Now it's going to be different when he is in a position where he needs to meet expectations with a GM that has no connection to him outside of the 3-4 months he spent in Sacramento, kind of that first go round. So Doug Christie, to me, is deserving of the job. I think there's some fans out there that feel like, hey, cool, we went with Doug. I like Doug. I used to watch Doug play. But was there somebody else out there that would have been deemed as a home run hire? And now we'll never know because the owner essentially told Scott Perry, this is what we're doing. Now, that's not on Scott Perry because there's only 30 of these jobs, and Scott Perry took it. So Scott Perry obviously is going to say, hey, whatever you need, boss, right? In the back of his mind, if it doesn't work out.
Yeah, Scott Perry was on ESPN last year.
Yeah,
so
if this doesn't work out, we're going to go in a different direction. But I can understand why fans feel that they should have went through the process. I guess for me, I wouldn't get up in arms about it because we essentially knew that there would be, we've been saying it for weeks on this show, that it was going to be Doug. So I think a process to me would have come off as fake. We talked about it yesterday, Kyle. What was it? But before the show, look, if somebody doesn't like you or like me for whatever reason that may be, my personality, something else, I would rather you just tell me straight up and kind of note that versus you faking it and you kind of talk behind my back. I want to know. And they've told us, not necessarily by choice, but once the Athletic article came out and it was understood that Vivek and Doug Christie were kind of connected, I got to be honest, I at least applaud, dare I say, I at least applaud them for not doing the fake thing, knowing that it was going to be Doug. Now, you can disagree that they decided it was going to be Doug so early. That's a different conversation. But knowing that they were going to go with Doug, if they interview Van Gundy and Sam Cassell and Taylor Jenkins and they just happen to go with Doug, that probably would have just pissed people off even more.
Yeah, because then it's like, well, now these people are coming in knowing they're sham interviews, and now you've just angered people more. Which is where if you're making the case of, hey, he had a short list, if we can get this A-list guy to come to Sacramento, okay, we can do that. But otherwise, we're going to go with Doug on what is essentially, I mean, we don't have the details of his contract, but you're saying 2 years with an option for a third is the most likely situation.
Yes.
That's essentially a year-to-year contract.
Yeah.
Like with 1 year left on your deal as a coach, you have no years left on your deal as a coach. So that's a year-to-year contract. Going with Doug on that year-to-year basis is, to your point, I think more insulting if you bring in Van Gundy, Taylor Jenkins, Sam Cassell's, Royal Ivies in Houston. If you bring those people in and then give Doug less money and less security than you would have offered those people, does it feel like you're putting the best person in that position, which is a tough question to answer.
916 says they should give Doug 3 years, understanding they can let him go if it doesn't work out. Yeah, I think it'll be 2 years, 2 years and an option. 916 also says, why are people so bent out of shape about what Perry said as far as the search? Who says he didn't spend the week with Doug and like the vision? Maybe nobody else wanted to interview. Who cares? If the shadiest thing he does is wait a week to announce Doug, then I'm fine with it. 530 says Doug will be a great coach if Perry gets him a solid point guard. That's from James. I think they're going to need more than that, James. But back to the 916, how they ended the conversation is where I want to kick off the 11 o'clock. We don't know what happened as far as those phone calls are concerned, and we know how the Kings are viewed. So how desirable was this job? Allen Stiles, Sacktown Sports.
Keegan Murray plays here.
Keegan scores another three-pointer. Keegan Murray knocking it down for 23 points. Snatched De'Aaron Fox for game scoring honors.
Sacktown Sports is your proud home of the Sacramento Kings.
Advanced Infusion Center, where we prioritize your comfort and well-being. Whether you're managing a chronic condition or seeking specialized IV therapy, our state-of-the-art center offers tailored solutions to meet your needs. Advanced Infusion Center's dedicated healthcare professionals are here to ensure your safety and provide personalized care. Conveniently located in Sacramento and Yuba City with flexible scheduling options. Experience a new standard in infusion therapy. Visit Advanced Infusion Center today at advancedinfusion.com.
Power Business Technology is proud to be a 100% independent, locally owned and managed Toshiba copier dealer. Local ownership cuts out the red tape, allowing ourselves to never be too busy to personally answer the call when our clients need us. Recognized for excellence in service execution, training, and customer service, we're proud to be named a Toshiba ProMasters Elite Dealer since 2021. Contact us today for all your business printing needs at 844-POWER-BZ. That's 844-769-3729, or visit us at powercopiers.com.
Ready to order?
Yes. We're earning unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver Card. So let's just get one of everything.
Everything?
Fire everything. The Capital One Saver Card is at table 27 and they're earning unlimited 3% cash back.
Yes, Chef! This is so nice.
Had a feeling you'd want 3% cash back on dessert.
Ooh, tiramisu.
Earn unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver Card. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Progressive knows when you're on your boat, you're already on vacation. And Vacation You forgets all your worries. Vacation You doesn't even keep track of time and knows that time is a meaningless construct designed to control us, man. But Regular You knows you don't want to be too far out in the water after the sun goes down because Vacation You doesn't know how to navigate in the dark yet. Vacation You and Regular You really need to get on the same page. So bundle your boat with your home or auto policy and earn an automatic discount from Progressive. And spend the savings on the both of you. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers. Not available in all states or situations.
If you've always wanted to be a part of that Jeep life, there's no better time than now than the 2025 Jeep Wrangler. And no one has a better selection than Sacramento Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. The Jeep Wrangler has been unmatched in off-road capability for over 80 years. But being a Jeep owner, it's so much more than the performance on and off the road. It's a lifestyle. It's camaraderie. It's the versatility and the customization. The new Jeep Wrangler, it's better than ever. And you won't be able to find a better car buying experience or selection than at Sacramento Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram.
What would it take for a plumbing company to earn your trust? Jerry and Kenny here from Bell Brothers. And let's face it, plumbing and service companies don't always have the best reputation.
So to earn your trust, the first thing they'd have to do is actually answer the phone when you call with a real live person. Then they'd have to send a plumber when you needed them, day or night, without charging extra for emergency services.
A trustworthy plumber would show up on time, wearing a clean uniform and name badge, and be able to show that they had passed a background check and drug test.
A plumber you could trust would give you a firm quote on the job before starting and clean up after they finish the job.
That's exactly the plumber you'll get when you call Bell Brothers, a plumber you can trust. Call Bell Brothers right now for all your plumbing needs. Our number is 916-444-1234, or find us online at theNoSurpriseGuys.com.
The No Surprise Guys, Bell Brothers.
River Cats baseball is back, and the Cats Pass is your ticket to every home game of the 2025 season. With unbeatable value, guest add-ons, and more, secure your season-long Cats Pass with the Sacramento River Cats at rivercats.com.
KHTK-HD1 Sacramento, KYMX HD3 Sacramento.
From the Power Business Technology Toshiba Studios.
Sacktown Sports 1140.
Your home for Kings talk and so much more.
Live and local.
Allen Stiles on Sacktown Sports.
Doug Christie finalizing a deal. Of course, we are going to break that down, or keep breaking it down, I should say. But we do have a trade target we want to discuss. Obviously, we're doing a couple a week. We do have some sound from a former coach of Jake LaRavia, if he's going to be able to hang on. The GM for the Grizzlies, if he'll be able to hang on, and why they aren't regretting it, but why they miss Jake LaRavia. But we continue on with some of the Doug Christie talk, and I wanted to kind of take it in this direction. So Scott Perry says, and everybody is kind of trying to read through what Scott Perry said last week when he said, my phone is ringing incessantly. And then all of a sudden next week, the next week, they don't even open up the position, and they just go ahead and move on with Doug Christie. Now, we do not know who all called Scott Perry. We do not know if there were any calls, period, right? Maybe he was just doing the GM marketing thing, and he did a damn good job of it. The other part is when we sat here and ranked how desirable the coaching positions were in the NBA, the Kings weren't at the top of the list. They were probably towards the bottom. So I know that Scott Perry kind of did the GM thing, and I don't know whether he got calls or not. But the reality is, how do we know that conversations with Jeff Van Gundy didn't happen? How do we know that conversations with Taylor Jenkins didn't happen? Maybe they're holding out for whatever the heck is going on in San Antonio. Maybe they're holding out for what happens in Phoenix. We don't know. Maybe they're holding out for what happens in Memphis. Obviously, it seems like Memphis is going to keep their guy, but that hasn't been announced yet. What's going to happen in Denver? Looks like they're going to go in that direction, but hasn't been announced yet. So if they're on a certain timeline, the Kings are, and why there's a rush, another question that you can definitely ask yourself. But if they're on a timeline and a lot of these coaches are waiting to see what happens in more desirable places, if Pop doesn't continue on in San Antonio, that's the number one, right? How do we know that the conversation with Taylor Jenkins didn't happen and it went a different direction? How do we know that Jeff Van Gundy didn't? Honestly, I've been around a long time. I'm kind of just chilling as an assistant coach. I'm good. Budenholzer, hey, I tend to find jobs pretty easily. I don't think I want to go to Sacramento. Heard great things, but no thank you. So we don't know. We don't know. The phones were ringing, but that doesn't mean that teams and coaches were lined up. Maybe Scott Perry assessed the situation last weekend, beginning of this week, and said, yeah, based on the agreement that Vivek and I have, at least we know Doug likes being here. I don't want to get into a situation where I got to convince somebody and it turns into a mess. I don't want anybody having regrets. Doug has the same vision I have, and we can move in the right direction together. That's it. Kyle, you had a list of other current coaches that only know one organization as far as their coaching career has been. What's the list?
So there's two. It's not going to make you feel great about Doug getting the job unless you believe in the strong organizational culture of the Kings, because
one is Eric Spoelstra.
One is Eric Spoelstra, who in 1995 was a video coordinator for the Miami Heat, went all the way up the bench until becoming the head coach in 2008, and then has been the Hall of Fame head coach of the Miami Heat ever since. Spoelstra's only been with the Heat since 1995. Obviously, That's a Heat culture thing.
Wow.
1995.
That's actually insane.
Eric Spoelstra, his entire coaching career, has from video coordinator.
Was he like 14?
Spoelstra's older than you think, man. Spoelstra's been around a long time. I think Spoelstra actually is celebrity birthdays. How old is Spoelstra?
There's no way he's in the sixes.
He is 55.
Okay. All right. Who are the other two?
Okay, so there's one other is Mitch Johnson, the interim coach for the Spurs right now. Was assistant with the G League team, then assistant on the Spurs bench.
So those are the two?
Those are the two. It's the Spurs.
And one's an interim?
Well, he's the coach for now. He's
That's not good. That's not a hearty list.
But also, it's a list of, strong first-class organizations of the Miami Heat, the San Antonio Spurs, and the Sacramento Kings, all of which came to the same conclusion, which is our head coach is going to be someone who has only worked for the organization. I guess the flip side of it is Kings have made the playoffs more recently than the Spurs.
Yeah, somebody is bringing up And this guy is a little confusing, but somebody brought up Steve Kerr, which technically he has only coached the Warriors.
Yes.
He was an exec with the Suns, so Steve Kerr would count. Hey, Eric Spoelstra, Steve Kerr, Mitch Johnson, and Doug Christie.
Yes. Well, it's even funnier when you think of it organizationally. The Heat, the Warriors, the Spurs, who, if my math is correct, have won, what is that? 14 of the last 25 NBA championships, and the Sacramento Kings.
And don't y'all say Steve Kerr's the luckiest coach ever anyway? I mean, he walked into Steph Curry, the Splash Bros.
Maybe this is the modern NBA. You know, like JJ Redick was never an assistant coach. Steve Nash was an assistant. He was Kevin Durant's personal coach with the Warriors.
Can I also say this, though? Steve Nash got canned, okay?
Yeah.
And we don't know if JJ Redick is, again, really good at this media thing, and he's fiery on the bench. We don't know if JJ Redick's a good coach or not.
Yeah, this is my underlying point, which is I don't know what makes a good coach. All we can do...
Steph Curry makes someone a good coach.
That's a big part of it. But
LeBron James makes someone a good coach.
Well, not David Blatt, but...
They got to the finals.
Sure. Did it help David Blatt get second year?
Mike Brown got to the finals with LeBron.
Sure. He's been fired a lot. And I don't know what makes a good coach in the modern NBA. That's not to say Doug will not succeed. I think a lot of people's concerns are A, the process, and B, this is not a long-term commitment at all. You're essentially giving him a year-to-year contract if it's going to be that, as you mentioned, 2-year deal with an option for the third year that most people expect it'll be. That's essentially a year-to-year contract. It's not going to cost them a whole lot to move off of him after next season if the Kings finish 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th. And as we mentioned before, you have Sabonis, 2 years left on his deal. Levine can opt out. Keegan, restricted free agent. Keon, free agency. Next year's the year to pivot that roster. And if that includes moving on from Doug and moving on from everyone, then so be it. Maybe that's the direction they go.
916-339-1140. A lot of people are mentioning the players and how the players may have wanted Doug. And if the players want Doug, well, it depends on what players are trying to keep. Look, Domantas Sabonis is your franchise now. Doesn't matter what Allen Stiles says about Domantas Sabonis. It doesn't matter what the random 916 says about Domantas Sabonis, or the 209 or somebody on the SAC chat. Doesn't matter what any of us say. Domantas Sabonis right now is, I think, getting paid a smidge more or a smidge less than Zach LaVine, but he is your best all-around player. He is your franchise guy. So it starts with him. And we know how Domantas Sabonis felt about Doug Christie. He's going to miss him as his personal coach in the summer, but obviously Domantas Sabonis riding for Doug Christie. Zach LaVine, it is documented. Kyle Draper in the afternoon show, Drive Guys, 2 to 6, Jay Johnson. He said Zach LaVine also said out loud, "I want Doug Christie." Okay, that's two of your most your highest paid players on the team, number 1 and number 2, and you got to pay them either way. So, and they're probably not going anywhere, and you don't want I don't think you don't want Domantas Sabonis to go anywhere. So you start there, and honestly, funny enough, Kyle, if those are the two guys riding for Doug, not that this is a democracy, and raise your hand if you want Doug. You don't do that in the locker room. But does it really matter if anybody else wanted Doug or not? And I'm not saying that nobody else did. But if the two guys are paying $40 million to want Doug Christie, you're probably going with Doug Christie.
I think you ask Keegan, and other than that,
if Keegan said no, you're still going with Doug.
If you wanted to go with Doug, honestly, if you wanted to go with Doug anyways, it doesn't matter whether the players want him or not. Now, I agree that I'm trying to think of the best way to phrase this. Camaraderie in the locker room and players believing in their coach is the most important factor when it comes to whether a coach is going to get fired or not. Because if you lose that locker room, it can go fast.
Did it look like they believed in him during the play-in?
Oh, absolutely. It didn't look like they believed in him from the Clippers game onward. I know they won the Pistons game and the Cavs game and woo, rah, rah, let's go. But no, the back half of the season was a disaster. But I also give them grace because it was a long season. A lot happened. They all had to learn how to play with each other. And I understand going into this and saying, hey, give Levine, Sabonis, Keegan, give them all a Monk, give them an off-season, a training camp to get this thing in the right direction, and maybe we can get to that 5 seed you talked about yesterday.
Now let me break this down. It is imperative that Doug Christie, he's not JJ Redick, but they do the JJ Redick thing and get kind of former coaches around him. I wouldn't mind the names that we said. I don't think they would want to be assistants, but the Frank Vogels, the Mike Budenholzers of the world, I wouldn't mind them as assistant coaches to kind of help Doug along the way. I think that's the direction you go in. This guy in particular, he's only been coaching about a year or so, but he has done wonders for the Warriors defense. Jerry Stackhouse. Jerry Stackhouse is a hot, up-and-coming, sexy name.
Former college coach.
Yeah, former college coach that I don't know that he would want to leave the Warriors since he's just now getting started, but I would look at Jerry Stackhouse. I think Sam Cassell it's probably time to cash in his chips to be a head coach somewhere if somebody's interested. I don't know about that. I know somebody's going to bring up Bobby Jackson. I don't know where that line starts and ends, where it's just we're just going to keep recycling these early 2000s Kings players. If it works, it works. I just care about winning, right? So I think that the next step as Doug is building out this coaching staff is what is the line between who he had. Again, this is a unique situation because even you look at the Grizzlies, right? Or if the Nuggets lose to the Clippers, both of those coaches didn't have enough time with the staff to argue that there was a connection and, hey, it's kind of tough to move on from them, so let's kind of rock and roll. Doug Christie, over 50 games with these guys. So he's in a tough situation as far as building up his coaching staff because he went to war with these guys for 50-plus games, and he's got to figure out who makes sense, who doesn't. Now, first you ask, some of the guys will get poached, and some of the guys will be gone anyway, but those that want to stay, I think it's a uniquely tough situation for Doug because he's been an interim coach for so long.
Yeah, we can talk about the coaches on the other side and why, in a weird way, the Bobby Jackson thing actually does make more sense in terms of his career progression. But you're right. I think there's going to think about when Mike took over the job. The first hire he went out and made was the third guy on the Nuggets bench, Jordi Fernandez, and made him a number 2, an associate head coach for the first time. There is plenty of opportunity to get number 3s and number 4s on other people's benches who you have relationships with, make them number 2s and number 3s for the first time in their career and see if they take that next step in their coaching development, and maybe you found the next Jordi Fernandez.
So it's going to be fascinating how this thing kind of evolves, and we will be with you every step of the way. More Doug reaction. What should Doug be looking for on his roster as we continue? Allen Stiles, Sacktown Sports.
On the move? Got somewhere to be?
Take Sacramento Kings basketball with you. The Sacktown Sports app will let you stay connected to your passion. Never miss a moment of Sacramento Kings basketball with the Sacktown Sports app.
Whoa, it's you, the Capital One Bank guy.
That's what they call me.
Mind if I get a selfie?
Yeah, sure thing. Say no fees or minimums on your Capital One checking account.
Wow, that's a keeper. So, where are you heading?
I'm off to spread the good news that Capital One helps people keep more money in their wallet with no overdraft fees.
Oh, you're the best Capital One Bank guy.
Hey, mind if I get a selfie?
Sure.
Say, Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One NA, member FDIC.
Seems everything costs more these days. Gas, groceries, and when's the last time you checked your wireless bill? When it comes to big wireless, if you're staying, you may be overpaying. Switch to Consumer Cellular to get the same fast nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill. Plans start at just $20 a month, and now for a limited time, new customers can get their second month free. Call 1-888-FREEDOM, visit a store near you, or consumercellular.com and start saving today. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. Taxes, fees, and other third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
Allen Stiles. Watch the show on youtube.com/Sacktown Sports 1140.
Or listen on the Sacktown Sports app.
From Folsom Mike, we are a third-tier team. We're not getting a first-tier coach. Doug is fantastic, and we are still paying Brown. This is a business. Totally love making Doug official early and moving on to the players. That's from Folsom Mike. I like that take, Folsom Mike. I like that take. 209, I think it was smart that they went with Doug. The players have all bought in with Doug. The thing that Scott Perry mentioned in his presser about Doug's on-court presence. He definitely has that. And the last thing we need is a repeat of players being disgruntled because you move off of a Mike Brown or someone like that. From the 209. Yeah, and like I said, the two highest paid players on the team wanted Doug Christie, and we're open about wanting Doug Christie. So it's a good starting point. It's a good selling point for Vivek, right? It would be, I could see way more arguments to be disgruntled as a fan if Domantas Sabonis and Zach LaVine, essentially, not that they would say they didn't want somebody, but they weren't giving that buy-in. They weren't saying, "Oh, we love Doug, and hey, you know, we're open to whoever comes in, and we just want someone who's going to do a good job." If that's what they were saying, and then Vivek said, "Well, you have to hire Doug anyway," then I would see more of an argument. But your two highest-paid players wanted Doug. The owner wanted Doug. He's been in the building, over a 500 record. We don't know what type of talent was calling Scott Perry. We don't know how those conversations went once ownership got involved, right? A lot could have happened. Kyle, when was the presser? Was that Tuesday?
Wednesday, I believe.
It was Wednesday. So they had that, obviously that day, Wednesday, it was in the morning. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. A lot can happen. Knowing that, hey, it's probably going to be Doug, but let's see if something happens. If you are job searching, and look, if you got two offers nowadays, that's pretty good in this job market, in this economy. But you have a job that you're excited about. Maybe you would like a little bit more money, but you're pretty happy about it. And they say, hey, well, we need to know in a couple of days or so. You say, hey, I need a week, right? I need a week. During that week, you're waiting to see if somebody else calls you, right? You had two interviews that went really well. You're waiting to see if somebody else calls you. Now you're still happy with that initial job offer and you're planning on taking it, but that second job, more work from home, a little bit better salary, a little bit better benefits. They match you on 401k. But you know, hey, I can't wait too long because I don't want to miss out on this job. I guess the difference is there, you probably weren't going to, quote unquote, miss out on Doug because he didn't have a ton of leverage. But you understand the point that I'm trying to make. As we continue to break down what Doug did during his tenure and who he should look for. 27-24, that was his record. That does not count that play-in beatdown because play-ins don't really exist. You just watch them and the results matter, but the stats do not matter. So that does not count against his record, even though they lost that game to the 10-seed Mavericks with no Kyrie. And it was the third game with their three bigs, and it wasn't great. Derek Lively, Anthony Davis, Daniel Gafford, and they got beat down. And Klay Thompson got his revenge. Not a great end to the season. Doug Christie was really the first one to be open about the lack of point guard play. All right. And what's funny is we keep on throwing around this name, Tyus Jones, but even with that being said, I've seen some circles as far as the Phoenix Suns are concerned. Apparently, Tyus Jones is awful at defense. I mean, terrible at defense.
That's why I haven't said Tyus Jones, because in my mind, I'm like, if you're going to do an undersized point guard that's bad at defense, just go get Chris Paul.
Yeah. So that is that is something to keep in mind. I liked what he did early in the season. I think when Bradley Beal came back, he didn't really know where he fit and things like that. But there are different situations and different positions that I think Doug should be focusing on, and he's going to work in conjunction with Scott Perry to be on the same page. And I do think that if Scott Perry brought in somebody, obviously they'd be on the same page. And yes, typically a GM gets to pick their head coach. But if you're not going to get to pick their head coach, at least the coach in there, like you said a couple days ago, Kyle, it's not Mike D'Antoni. And Scott Perry is saying, I need you. I'm going to go Derek Jones Jr. And D'Antoni saying, no, we need Kyle Kuzma or somebody just very offensive focused. Or we need Jordan Poole. We don't need Derek Jones Jr.
Oh, boy.
So at least they're going to be, or we could assume that they're going to be on the same page there. Here's a recent history of interim coaches who got the full-time job. Fired during or after one season as full-time coach. Keith Smart with the Kings. Mike D'Antoni with the Lakers. George Karl with the Kings. Earl Watson, I remember Earl Watson with the Suns. J.B. Bickerstaff with the Grizzlies. And look at him now. Look at J.B. Bickerstaff now.
Well, keep going down the list. He'll come up again.
Jim Boylan with the Bulls. Jacques Vaughn with the Nets. Coaches who made at least one playoff appearance as full-time coach. Mike Woodson with the Knicks. Randy Whitman with the Wizards. And coaches who got a second contract after being the interim head coach. Frank Vogel and J.B. Bickerstaff again. J.B. Bickerstaff, how many teams has he been a part of?
I believe 3, but J.B. Bickerstaff was the guy who you hire to replace the coach you just fired. That was kind of his reputation, but he made it work with the Cavs. Just for people keeping track at home, and again, this is the last 13 years, that is of 11 coaches that were interims in the middle of the season who got the full-time job at the end of the season. Out of 11, 7 of them were fired after their first season as the full-time coach.
Hold on.
So again, since 2012, 11 coaches were named the interim in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
And then had the interim tag removed.
I mean, I know I read the names, but the number, I don't like that number.
7 out of 11 made it one season or less as the full-time coach. The one exception is Earl Watson, who, this was the weirdest one. He got 1 year, and then they kept him around for 3 games in his second season, and he got fired 3 games into year 2. So odds are 63%, just based on history, that Doug is going to get fired at the end of the next season.
Wow.
Just based on the pure numbers of every coach that has ever had the interim tag removed since 2012, 7 out of 11 got fired after 1 year or less.
And is part of that, and we could probably dig even deeper to see out of those 11, they all probably had a decent end of the season, right? Or had a decent stretch, and the team felt, hey, you earned a tryout. You earned a year at this. We're not going to sign you to a year because people don't do that, but you've earned a year, and if it works out, great. And I would assume those 7 coaches, it didn't work out great. Because if you fired a coach, that team probably wasn't very good. So it probably wasn't very good the next year either.
Well, I think the one exception is the weird Kings one, where they fired Michael Malone in the middle of the season, which, I mean, for the rest of these, Boylan with the Bulls, that was a bad idea from the start. D'Antoni with the Lakers, I think, just got screwed because Kobe tore his Achilles. Earl Watson with the Suns was probably a bad idea from the start. Some of these coaches don't seem like bad hires. It's the Antonio Pierce thing with the Raiders, right? It's like they hired him at a different time when similarly the locker room was going to bat for him.
Yeah.
He was the Raider guy, and then they started losing games and they realized they could go get a Hall of Famer in Pete Carroll instead of riding it out with Antonio Pierce and waiting to see if he was going to figure it out.
Talk to Tom Telesco. And I would say the Raider thing, truly why Antonio Pierce got hired is because they felt like they botched Rich Bisaccia. That's why, and they didn't want to do it again. That's why Antonio Pierce, that's how I've always felt.
Yeah, but
it was almost, all right, we kind of have to hire Antonio Pierce because they got mad at us when we didn't hire Rich Bisaccia, who Rich Bisaccia also did never become a head coach.
But also similarly, Max Crosby was going on Pat McAfee and was like, if they don't name him the coach, I'm going to demand a trade.
Yeah, and you're not going anywhere, Max. All right, we are going to keep the conversation going with Doug Christie, but we also want to hear from Grizzlies GM Zach Kleiman as he has some regrets about letting go of Jake LaRavia. Allen Stiles, Sacktown Sports.
You never know what you might hear when listening to a Sacramento Kings game.
Out of Keegan, going for another triple. Man, is he feeling it. Keegan, can he do it? Yes, there's number 11, Keegan Murray. Keegan steps back. He just knocked down his 12th three-pointer, a Kings franchise record. He's got 45 points.
Never miss a moment of Sacramento Kings basketball with Sacktown Sports and the Sacktown Sports app.
You heard the news. Newsmax just went public on the New York Stock Exchange and listed on the big board. Millions of Americans like you are joining our news revolution. Reuters Institute says Newsmax is one of the top 12 news brands in America. Even President Trump says it's terrific. 40 million Americans go to Newsmax, and its audience grew 50% since the same time last year. Millions really are making the switch to Newsmax. If you want to be a Newsmax share owner, call your advisor or get more info at newsmaxinvest.com. Stand with Newsmax today for a strong America. This communication is for informational purposes only and shall not be intended to or shall not constitute any offer to buy or sell securities, nor shall there be any sale of securities in any jurisdiction in which such offer, solicitation, or sale would be unlawful.
Sacramento's premier country music festival, Country in the Park, is coming back May 16th and 17th at Cal Expo with Bailey Zimmerman, Billy Gurrington, Cole Wetzel, Nate Smith, and more. You'll enjoy food trucks, rock walls, and a mechanical bull, line dancing, and more. Single-day GA tickets start at $52 at CITPFest.com. Country in the Park, May 16th and 17th with Sky River Casino, Hop Valley Brewing, and Naturewood Home Furnishings. Find out more at CITPFest.com.
Hi, I'm Allen Stiles. Injured at work? Call Downtown. Downtown LA Law Group, California's leading injury law firm. With over 40 lawyers throughout California, they've won over $500 million in settlements. Downtown LA Law Group will get you compensation for your work injury. You don't pay unless they win. That's right. You pay zero up front. Call Downtown. Text Injury Help to 40222. That's Injury Help to 40222. Visit them at calldowntown.com.
The IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship is back for another thrilling season at Monterey's iconic WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca, May 9th through the 11th. Only in Monterey can you experience a high-octane mix of international drivers, cutting-edge prototypes, and GT sports cars racing wheel to wheel. There'll be gourmet food, wine, craft beers, family entertainment, and exclusive fan engagement with the drivers in the open race paddock. Buy your tickets now and experience world-class motorsports. Visit WeatherTechRaceway.com.
It's the final days of the spring sales event. Drive home your new Honda before the deals and the new Hondas disappear. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop.
Looking to own or lease? During the spring sales event, drive a brand new Accord or Civic. Visit us today at FolsomLakeHonda.com, your one-stop Honda shop.
As a family-owned and operated dealership since 2009, customer service is our number one priority. Our customers love doing business with us, and you will too.
Folsom Lake Honda, yeah, your one-stop Honda shop.
Disturbed. Live. Oh, get up, come on, get down with the 25th anniversary of the 5-time platinum album, The Sickness. 2 sets, 1 show, The Sickness in its entirety, and greatest hits with special guests, Daughtry, and nothing more. Friday, May 9th.
Golden One Center. Tickets are on sale now at Ticketmaster.com. Disturbed. Live.
Allen Stiles
You can join the show by texting 916-339-1140.
on Sacktown Sports.
Doug Christie is the head coach. They are finalizing a deal. But who's going to be on his squad? Will Domantas Sabonis be there? Will Zach LaVine be there? Will Malik Monk be there? Will Jake LaRavia be there? Now, obviously, we've gone back and forth with Jake LaRavia probably playing himself out of the smaller contract that the Kings can offer him based on them taking over the Grizzlies situation. But there's always a chance. Jake did say he loved how things worked out. He loved being in Sacramento, and he was injured, right? So he didn't get a chance to ball out on the big stage, the play-in stage, or towards the end of the season. So you never know. What we do know is that when you lose Jake LaRavia, you tend to have some regrets. And as the Grizzlies, who are talking big talk, by the way, now that the series is over, that they got swept in, mind you, Scottie Pippen Jr. saying that they had a chance if Ja didn't get hurt, Ja saying he had the Thunder, quote-unquote, figured out. It's easy to say when you're on your way to Cancun, but Grizzlies GM Zach Kleiman thinks that Jake LaRavia could have helped them in that series and towards the end of the year, as he has some regrets on letting go of the legend. Here it is.
If you could take a do-over on any one decision you've made since a year ago today in this situation, what would it be?
I've already raised my hand vis-a-vis the original, smart trade, and that was before that time. I think sometimes you feel the effects of decisions made earlier, as they play out over time. I think we should have picked up Jake LaRavia's team option. I think the mistake was there. Going forward, because of the difficulties with that situation, we're probably better off with the second round pick, going forward from what we can do going forward. So it's not like a regret vis-a-vis. I think Jake could have helped us, down the stretch. So I think, vis-a-vis this season, yes, would have been great, if we had him, with us down the stretch. But the original decision is what put us, in that position. I thought that was a close call at the time. We went back and forth on it. Probably should have picked up Jake LaRavia's team option if I have to pick. That's probably not what people are focused on. But I think Jake's made, significant steps forward. He played well.
Well, if they did pick it up vis-a-vis a second rounder, then maybe Jake would still be there. I was telling Kyle during the break that I had an old boss who he loved to say vis-a-vis. Just once a meeting, he's saying vis-a-vis. But in all seriousness, Zach Kleiman literally is admitting, hey, a lot of people probably aren't talking about this, but I see something in Jake LaRavia that we really did miss towards the end of the season. And now the Kings are in a tough situation where he probably will get priced out, but there is still an optimistic view where Jake LaRavia takes maybe a small pay cut and stays in Sacramento. Kyle, you have those numbers on Jake LaRavia and what the Kings can offer him.
Yes. So this is estimated numbers because, again, I don't know exactly how the NBA salary cap is going to work. So the most they can offer him, we know for sure, is $5.1 million this summer.
Right.
And Bobby Marks had the numbers yesterday. There's like a biannual option for $5.1 million that if LaRavia resigns, they can just slide him in, doesn't count against the salary cap. So if they brought back LaRavia for $5.1 million, they could do it with that biannual option. If they offered him multiple years, the standard rule is 8% increases per year. So it would be, they can offer him, if that's true, 1 year, $5.1 million, 2 years at $10.6 million, 3 years at $16.5 million, and 4 years at $23 million. Obviously, you can put options and stuff in.
Yeah, it really just depends on Jake's market. And if you look at the other teams that would be interested in Jake, they can go in at essentially whatever they want and just say, hey, this is what we think you're worth, Jake. I mean, looking at it like that, I felt better before you read that off, Kyle. I'm going to be honest with you.
Did it feel better knowing that if he does choose to re-sign for $5.1 million in the first year, that it does not count against the salary cap?
Sure. For the Kings, again, it's more about Jake. Is there a world where the Kings just sign him for that $5 million and then he essentially kind of a last chance you thing where if he feels like, hey, the Kings can only offer me this, but I'm not actually getting that much money as far as the other offers. Let me take this from the Kings. Let me ball out in Sacramento, and then I get cashed out. Is there a world where that happens?
Vis-a-vis.
I would say if he has a multi-year contract offer on the table for more money,
he's going to take it now.
He's going to take that. If it's a multi-year contract for less average annual value, I don't see why the Sacramento Kings would be hesitant to make a multi-year commitment to Jake LaRavia when we're talking about A, such small dollar amounts, but B, small dollar amounts that in the short term won't count against the salary cap.
Give me the because I think the 2-year was too short and I think the 4-year was maybe a little too long. Give me the 3-year offer again.
So 3-year would be about $16.6 million. So if you're breaking it down, it'd be about 5.1 the first year, 5.5 the second year, and then $6 million the third year.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just can't see a team. Not coming in with 25
vis-a-vis
or more
vis-a-vis.
I don't see how the Kings keep Jake LaRavia.
Vis-a-vis.
And I don't even think his value is that crazy. I don't think someone's going to cash him out for $30 million. He's not going to get 3 years, $30 million, but he could get 3 years, 20. He could get 2 years, $20 million.
Yeah, I think the interesting situation is how many years would you be willing to go? Because Memphis wouldn't even commit 1 year to him. Mm-hmm. And granted, we just heard Zach Kleiman, the person who made that decision, say
vis-a-vis
that he regretted not taking the 1-year team option. Yeah. So granted, no one was willing to give him a 1-year contract 12 months, or not even 12. What is that? 8 months ago, they weren't willing to give him a 1-year extension. Yeah. So maybe he's played himself into a multi-year extension. Maybe Sacramento's the team who's willing to do that because Sacramento was the team that wanted him at the deadline. So maybe Sacramento is the team that values him most, but to your point, they're going to have to take that risk in free agency.
Yeah, I'm looking here. I mean, let's keep it 1,000. We know what Jake does. A lot of it isn't in the scorebook. We get that, right? It's not in the box score. But looking at the reality of it, 66 games this season. So he missed a decent amount of games, okay?
Most of it at the end of the season.
Yeah. Most of it, of course, with the Kings. 66 games. He averaged 6.9 points per game. He averaged 3.9 rebounds per game, 2.4 assists per game, 47.5% from the field, 42.3% from three, 67% from free throw. He's only 23 years old. So the reality is that you're signing him. If somebody is going to beat out the Kings, you're really beating him out based on what you think Jake LaRavia will be, not based on what he's done so far. So I felt bad after you read off those numbers. Now reading the stats, I feel better. And then I see his age. I feel worse. I do think that there is a chance. There is a chance here.
Maybe it ends up being 1 year at a player option, right? Because if I understand this correctly, there's no rules on player options or team options that you can offer. If he signs the contract, he signs the contract. But I think the most they could offer him are those dollar values, which I don't know. You mean 2 years and $11 million, that's like 3 times as much as he's made on his rookie scale contract. So who knows? I think the Kings should offer him as much as they can, kind of like they did with Malik Monk, and then just let the market play itself out. If who's a team with cap space? If Indiana comes in and says, we want to offer him $10 million a year, I think you just kind of say, well, we tried. We are literally limited by the rules that we can't offer him more than 5.1 million. So
you would offer him the 4 years?
No, I would offer either the 2 or the 3 with a player option.
Yeah.
But again, this is the conversation we've been having all day with Doug Christie. Are they committing to anybody beyond 2026?
Give me the 2 years again.
It would be 10.6.
Ah, Lord.
So it would be 5.1.
If I'm his agent, I'm not getting out of bed for that.
5.1 the first year, 5.5 the next year.
What is Jake LaRavia's value right now? That is the question. Give me the 3 year one more time.
16.6. So it's $6 million the third year. Again, you're saying 5.6. I'm not getting out of bed, but a $6 million third year. Now we're talking.
Yeah, it's real. It's just who is going to. The question becomes, if you're Jake LaRavia and the Kings are offering you 10-2, and somebody else comes in, because if everybody knows, here's the thing though, his value is not up, right? So if everybody knows the Kings can only offer 10, then they're not really outbidding with anybody. And if you're, I don't know, just pick a random team, the Pistons, they can say, well, we'll do 2 for 15. Your Jake LaRavia, is 5 enough? And I say this is 5 enough. Is enough for me to be out to Detroit, but is 5 enough for Jake to go to Detroit if he truly did like Sacramento? All we can hope for now is that because Sacramento can only offer a certain amount, nobody attempts to, again, if you're only bidding with yourself, nobody attempts to blow Jake out of the water. And Jake says, I'll take a $3 million, $5 million pay cut to stay in Sacramento. That's the only thing I could think, or that his value is just completely shot right now.
Well, I think he only needs one other team to make him an offer to make that happen, right? It's who's the other team that values him more? Because again, at the deadline, which was 2 months ago, weird that that's only 2 months ago, but 2 months ago, the Kings were the team that saw his value as the highest. They gave up essentially 2 first-round picks for Jake LaRavia. When you talk about the second and Colby Jones, who was a former second-round pick, they essentially traded in 2 seconds for Jake LaRavia. So 2 months ago, they were the team that valued him more than anyone in the league.
And look, Zach LaVine appreciated that. Maybe Jake will appreciate it too. And to that point, Kyle, maybe, and look, I'm not going to say names, but there was a very notable King that came back this past season, and the idea was that there was a lot of money out there for him, and the reality was that there wasn't as much money out there for him as we all thought. Maybe the same thing could happen with Jake LaRavia. Our Kings trade target coming up next. Some of you may not like it, but I love it. Allen Stiles, Sacktown Sports.
Vis-a-vis.
The Sacktown Sports 1140 newsletter right to your email. Get your latest on the Sacramento Kings, athletics, and Republic FC with the Sacktown Sports 1140 newsletter. Visit sacktownsports.com to join.
It's Carmichael Dave talking to you about my good friends at American Energy. You're in the Sacramento area. You know how the seasons work. They are a-changing right now. So American Energy wants to help you stay warm for the rest of the cold season, but help you stay cool during the warm season. Best way to do that, make sure your system is operating safely. So right now is the time to take advantage of half off a tune-up, $24.50. They cut that right in half. And if you want a diagnostic, guess what? You can't beat free. If it's free, it's me, and now it can be you. And also, it's the end of the season blowout. $4,000 off a new system plus any rebates. That $4,000, that's a direct drop from the sticker price. It's a great deal. Check them out at theaeway.com or an instant quote, or give them a call at 916-520-9990. That's 916-520-9990. Tell them your good buddy Carmichael Dave sent you.
Call 916-520-9990 now.
Power Business Technology is proud to be a 100% independent, locally owned and managed Toshiba copier dealer. Local ownership cuts out the red tape, allowing ourselves to never be too busy to personally answer the call when our clients need us. Recognized for excellence in service execution, training, and customer service, we're proud to be named a Toshiba ProMasters Elite Dealer since 2021. Contact us today for all your business printing needs at 844-POWER-BZ. That's 844-769-3729, or visit us at powercopiers.com.
Thy ticket, Lady Jennifer of Coolidge.
Well, many thanks, good sir. Here'th my Discover card.
They accept Discover at Renaissance fairs?
Yeah, they do here. Discover is accepted at the places I love to shop. Getteth with the times.
With the times? You're playing the lute.
Yeah, and it sounds pretty good, right?
Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. Based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Do you find yourself stuck in a timeshare? Get the real facts about the timeshare industry and your options for cancellation. Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, has put together a free information guide that reveals the secrets the timeshare industry doesn't want you to know, including the 5 ways to get rid of your timeshare. Call now and get this timeshare cancellation guide absolutely free.
Call 800-837-5050. That's 800-837-5050. 800-837-5050.
Switch to Comcast Business Mobile and save hundreds a year on your wireless bill. Comcast Business, powering possibilities.
Restrictions apply. Comcast Business Internet required. Compares 2 unlimited intro lines and lowest price 5G plans of top 3 carriers. Taxes and fees extra. Reduced speeds after 30 gigabytes of usage. Data thresholds may vary.
Live and local.
It's Allen Stiles
on Sacktown Sports.
The people are asking, the 916 says, tuned in late, wanted to know if you already spoke about Shaq becoming the GM of Sac State basketball. I was telling Kyle during the break, I haven't, and I will. And my take on it, let's see here. My take on it is, I don't know if cynical is the right word, but I'll just tell you like this. Shaquille O'Neal goes 6'7", 6'8". This will be his 4th year in college basketball. He's played for a couple different teams, all right? He played for Texas Southern, and then he played for Florida A&M. He is, again, going into his 4th year. He's averaging 6.7 points, 3.4 rebounds, and 0.8 assists in the SWAC. So I'll spin the block on why I think Shaq took that position. I'm going to make you wait for it, but we'll talk about that in the 12 o'clock hour. Right now, it is time for our Kings trade target of the day. DeJounte Murray is the guy. And people, Allen, come on. We got to do better than that. Now, hold on now. Don't be disrespectful to DeJounte Murray. Look, he is a distressed asset, all right? He is coming off that Achilles injury. We have no clue what the Pelicans are doing. Before his injury, he was averaging 2 more points than his career average at 17.5, 1 more rebound at 6.5 rebounds a game, and 2 more assists at 7.4. He does struggle to shoot the basketball from three-point land at 29.9%, kind of a mid-range guy. I dubbed him a De'Aaron Fox light, okay? And somebody who does play, I would say, a good defense as De'Aaron Fox. He's 28 years old. Like I said, based on when he injured his Achilles, I feel like he'd be back before the turn of the new year, because it was definitely in November. It was either November or December. He did not play very long.
It was January 31st.
Okay. So he'd be back sometime in probably February, realistically, towards the end of the season. Like I said, he is, and we're not going to do stars every day, people. All right. It's a long summer. And he is going to be paid $31.6 million next season, then 33.6, then 31.6. The way Kyle kind of said this to me yesterday and I did want to rock and roll with it, is you could have Ja Morant at close to $40 million, and you got to give up DeMar DeRozan and Malik Monk. Would you rather have Ja Morant and give up DeMar DeRozan and Malik Monk and, whatever picks that they want? Or would you rather have DeJounte Murray and only have to give up DeMar DeRozan and you get to keep Malik Monk? My answer, I know he's older. I know he's coming off Achilles, and he did have an injury prior to that. He did not play a lot. Bad season, bad injury season for DeJounte Murray.
He had a broken wrist before that.
Yeah, he barely played with the Pelicans.
But he also, when he was on the Spurs, tore his ACL, I believe, in the same knee.
That's enough, Kyle. That's enough. I'm taking DeJounte Murray and keeping Malik Monk, and I would take that chance and moving on from DeMar DeRozan rather than giving up DeMar DeRozan and Malik Monk for Ja Morant. I would hope that the Kings could do better, don't get me wrong, regardless. But if you're looking around and Trae Young, the Hawks decide, nope, we're still going to keep Trae Young, and Ja Morant, that price tag is just kind of ridiculous, I'd go in the direction of DeJounte. Now, the problem is you wouldn't have him next season. That's the biggest issue, is that you wouldn't have him to start the season. But from a point guard position, over 7 assists a game. I know he can't really shoot, but what he can't do in shooting, he also can shoot the mid-range at a good clip. I'd be in. Unless Ja is dropping the price tag, I'd be in on DeJounte Murray as a distressed asset. I don't think he's to the point where they would have to attach a pick, but I don't think they're far off. If they really wanted to get off of it, and everybody knows that, well, DeJounte ain't even coming back for this season, they might attach a pick, and then I'd really be in. This team is not going – I don't know how good this team is going to be next season, so I'm not going to look around and make crazy decisions trying to go from a 9 seed to a top 3 seed in this West. I'm marathon, not a sprint in this situation.
And we've talked about this before, about how, like, after the top 5 point guards in the league, which is, Steph, Luka, Tyrese Halliburton, Jalen Brunson, Cade Cunningham, like, after those guys, Shea, after that, you've kind of just got like a group of like 7 to 14 that are like, is Jamal Murray better than Kyrie Irving? Who's better than Ja Morant? Who's better than Trae Young? We don't know. But there's a very real world where the Kings strike out on everyone 7 through 15.
Right.
Who are potentially available, at which point you have to filter down to 16 through 30.
This feels like a very realistic approach, which would make the Kings better. You got to get them back on the court, but it's realistic to me. I would also say we don't know what's going to happen with the Nuggets. The Nuggets can win this series, and they could keep rolling.
Jokic might carry them.
But if you're asking me, both at 28, if you're asking me, would I rather have DeJounte, and this might be disrespectful, would I rather have, because I'm just saying because they're both in kind of the same tier, would I rather have DeJounte Murray at 31.6 mil, although he won't be able to play a full season, or Jamal Murray at 46.3 mil?
With the risk that if Jamal Murray plays bad, you can't move that contract.
You're right. You could, and they're both the same age, mind you. Then in 2026, 2027, and Jamal Murray also, he hasn't had he had the ACL too, and he missed that time. So Jamal Murray at the age of 29 in 2026, 2027 will make $50.1 million. DeJounte Murray will make 33.6. Now, I get it. He's a champion and everything like that. Everything like that. He is a champion. But you're paying for that. You're paying for the champion.
Yes, that's the tough part about it, is once you get into it's not going to be Ja Morant, it's not going to be Trae Young, and it's not going to be Damian Lillard. Then you get into, you got to go with one of the Pelicans or Jazz, right? Those are the guys that are on the table, or you sign one in free agency.
Can you help me, Kyle? 530. Oh my gosh, you were probably against Butler. I was, and I still am, because I don't know how Jimmy Butler works on the Kings. The Kings are not the Warriors, but I'll continue on. But you'd remotely, this is what I'm talking about, but you'd remotely consider Ja absolutely crazy talk. DeMar and Jake over DeMar and Levine. That the second part of that text just threw me.
Saying DeMar and LaRavia?
I don't know.
Is Jake?
We went from not wanting Ja to DeMar and Jake being better than DeMar and Levine. I don't know. Normally, I don't read texts that don't make a ton of sense, but that one made so little sense. I felt like I
got a little chuckle out of that one.
Yeah.
Well, let's wait and see what. This is just again a joke. Let me see what DeMar and Levine can do when Colin Sexton is playing point guard.
Oh, look, man, don't joke about stuff that could actually happen. And Jordan Clarkson?
No, that's what I'm saying. It's like if you strike out on Trae Young, Ja Morant, or any of those, point guards 7 through 15 that we say are all the same, then you're looking at one of the Pelicans, which is CJ McCollum or DeJounte Murray, or one of the Jazz, which is insert Jazz point guard here.
And then it becomes, like I said, do you want to overpay or do you want to pay the current job price tag? We know that his value might be down a little bit. We just don't know by how much. 916 says definitely DeJounte, apparently more mature than Ja. Malik is also the verbal leader of the team, so I wouldn't want to lose Malik. That is to the beginning of the conversation when we said, would you rather give up DeMar DeRozan and Malik Monk to acquire Ja or just DeMar DeRozan to acquire DeJounte Murray? And y'all know where I'm at. It is tough that he probably won't be available until about February. But you look around, man, these point guards, you want the point guard, you got to pay point guard prices. And again, that is the issue with paying Zach LaVine all that money. But when you do decide to hold on to Zach LaVine, this is where it leads you. You can't pay 3 dudes $40 million. And you can, but from what we've learned, that's not what the Kings want to do. On the other side, we kick off the 12 o'clock hour. Doug Christie, the head coach. What does that mean for the Sacramento Kings and Shaq, the new Sac State basketball GM? What does that mean for Stingers Up? Allen Stiles, Sac Sports.
Check engine or ABS light on? Take the guesswork out of your warning lights with O'Reilly Veriscan. It's free. Ask for O'Reilly Veriscan.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Olay Indulgent Moisture Body Wash.
It's me, Olay Indulgent Moisture Body Wash. I see those dry elbows, baby. But don't worry, get moisturized right in the shower. So hydrated you can skip the lotion after.
Don't wanna see it dry no more. Skin so moisturized with body wash.
Look at you now. No more dry skin. Your skin gets the moisture it craves with
Olay Indulgent Moisture Body Wash.
I can't believe how spotless my floors look after using the Swiffer Power Mop. No more dragging around a heavy mop and messy bucket. Now I get the same deep clean without all the work. Thanks to the powerful solution and scrubbing pad of the Swiffer Power Mop, dirt and grime don't stand a chance, and I don't break a sweat. Mic drop. Mop drop.
Swiffer Power Mop. Swiffer Power Mop.
A smarter way to mop. Try it or your money back.
You heard the news. Newsmax just went public on the New York Stock Exchange and listed on the big board. Millions of Americans like you are joining our news revolution. Reuters Institute says Newsmax is one of the top 12 news brands in America. Even President Trump says it's terrific. 40 million Americans go to Newsmax, and its audience grew 50% since the same time last year. Millions really are making the switch to Newsmax. If you want to be a Newsmax share owner, call your advisor or get more info at newsmaxinvest.com. Stand with Newsmax today for a strong America. This communication is for informational purposes only and shall not be intended to or shall not constitute any offer to buy or sell securities, nor shall there be any sale of securities in any jurisdiction in which such offer, solicitation, or sale would be unlawful.
You've heard the saying, penny wise, pound foolish, right? It means you do something that will save you a little bit right now, just pennies, but that ends up costing you pounds in the end.
People put off tuning up their furnace because they don't want to take the time or spend the money to get it done.
But it only takes 90 minutes and costs just $87, which is just pennies compared to the huge problems and expenses that can rack up if you don't get your furnace tuned up.
You'll also save money on your energy bills and your system will last longer.
So don't be penny wise and pound foolish. Call Bell Brothers for a precision tune-up and professional cleaning today.
Our number is 916-444-1234 or find us online at thenosurpriseguys.com.
The No Surprise Guys, Bell Brothers.
Golf to Go is brought to you by the Hagen Oaks Golf Super Shop. Here's Frank LaRosa.
You've probably heard the word, but do you know what a stimp meter is and how it works? Invented by Edward Stimpson in the 1930s, a stimp meter is a device used to measure the speed of putting surfaces. His version was made of wood and was simply a chute on which a golf ball would roll onto the green. Roderick Easdale writes in Golf Magazine, today's stimp meters are made of aluminum. They're 36 inches long and have a V-shaped chute down which the ball can roll. It has 2 notches on which the ball rests. After a flat area of the green is selected, a golf ball is placed in the notch and the end is slowly lifted until the ball rolls down the chute and across the green. The average of 3 distances becomes one of the measurements. The process is repeated in the opposite direction, and the measure of both directions is added and divided by 2. That figure in feet is the stimp meter reading. Most courses average 9 or 10 on stimp meter, which is neither too fast or too slow, just right for most recreational players. That's your Golf to Go. I'm Frank LaRosa.
KHD1 Sacramento, KYMX HD3 Sacramento. From the Power Business Technology Toshiba Studios.
This is Sacktown Sports 1140. Your home for Kings talk and so much more.
Live and local.
Allen Stiles on Sacktown Sports.
2 hours down, 2 to go. Some breaking news happened at 9 a.m. If you were running around, helping getting your kids' teeth brushed, helping getting your dog's teeth brushed, whatever it may be, well, you may have missed that Doug Christie has been named the Kings head coach. Get rid of that interim tag. They are finalizing a multi-year deal to make Doug Christie the head coach. We don't know for how long quite yet. You heard from Shams that it is going to be more than 1 year. You don't typically see coaches with 1 year. Doug is a very unique situation. Only knows the Sacramento Kings. He went 27 and 24 as head coach. He had some really high highs and some really low lows. At least he had 2 4-game losing streaks. He might have even snuck in with one more rough stretch towards the end. It might not have been in a row, but the end of the season was rough. He was missing Malik Monk. He was missing Jake LaRavia, who we just spoke about, and how tough it's going to be for the Kings to keep him. Might be more realistic than we think, but don't want to be too optimistic. I'm looking here, Kyle. There were the losing streaks, and they were very close together. This was crazy. That home stretch, right before the home stretch, they lost to LA, that LA game that broke them. Well, before that, they had the Denver game that they tricked off, the LA game that broke them, the Knicks game where I don't think I've ever covered the Kings and they've beat the Knicks. I don't think so.
It has not happened.
I do not think so. They lost to Golden State. That was the new version of Golden State, and they got their tails beat. And then they lost to the Suns. That was a 4-game losing streak. Then they came home for that brutal stretch where they randomly beat Memphis and they randomly beat Cleveland, who was struggling at the time. And then they lost 4 straight: Chicago, Milwaukee, Boston, Oklahoma City, which was, I guess, more understandable. Then after that is where this was probably the lowest stretch, because you beat Portland, then you lost 3 straight. You got dog walked by the Magic. You had that Indiana game that's very similar to that Bucks game. You lost that game, and then you lost to Washington.
JT Thor.
So that was, they were in that stretch 3-11. 3-11.
Yeah, after the Clippers loss.
Or 4-12, whatever makes you feel better. So that was a really rough stretch. So he had that. He did have that high of the 7-game winning stretch, which did get derailed. It did get derailed by the De'Aaron Fox trade. So I will continue to say it. Doug Christie did enough to become the head coach. He earned it. He earned it. Could someone else have maybe leapfrogged him the same way he leapfrogged Luke Laux and Jay Triano? Maybe. But this is who ownership wanted. This is who Domantas Sabonis wanted for a very long time. Let the record show. This is who Zach LaVine wanted. That came out last week. So it's a direction they go in. I don't really have a problem with it. Some people are upset with the process, and I understand that. I also know that when we talked about how desirable this job was to other coaches, I don't think it was at the top of the list. We have other positions that are open. This job more desirable than Phoenix to you? They're probably going to lose Durant, but based on what they get back, is it more desirable than Phoenix to you?
Yes, because that owner's willing to spend money.
Well, then you mean Phoenix is more desirable.
Yeah, Phoenix is more desirable.
Yeah. So Phoenix is more desirable. We don't know what's going to happen with Pop. They might keep Mitch Johnson. That would be the most desirable, easily.
We talked about this when the job first came open in Denver. Would you rather coach the current NBA MVP of Jokic or coach Wemby?
I'd rather coach the Nuggets.
Yeah, but
I'd rather coach the Nuggets.
We don't know. Again, it could be Adelman ends up getting that job. We don't know.
Yeah, and if they beat the Clippers, then that job is not becoming available.
I guess
it's not.
It seems like Jokic is coaching that team at this point. He's drawing up plays in the huddle. He's carrying their injured team to 2 crazy wins.
Yeah, and that, funny enough, and I don't know if Adelman, obviously I know the history of the Adelmans in Sacramento, but I will say this, at least Doug makes you feel something. When Doug is on I listen to Adelman talk, and you're right, Kyle. Jokic be messing around with the clipboard, and Adelman said, "Oh, we don't mind it. We want all the." What did he say? All the help we can get, or something like that.
It was, if Jokic wants to coach this team, he can coach this team.
So I don't know if he's when we talk about Doug is rah versus X's and O's. Maybe because I'm a rah guy myself, but and when I coach SEC softball with my girls, then we'll be rocking and rolling, but. I don't know that Adelman, if he were the guy that, if I were a Nuggets coach or a Nuggets fan, if I would be gassed up for I mean, he's just kind of there, right? At least Isalo, he's supposed to be this offensive savant. Okay, let's see it. Are you the Sean McVay of basketball? But Adelman, at least Doug makes you feel something.
Yeah, Tuomas in Memphis was coaching in the German basketball league during the Beam Team season, so that tells you how fast his rise has been.
Yeah.
Adelman is interesting because if I flip up the results here, so like that series is 2-2, and by the way, Game 5 is tonight. Going to be epic.
It should not be 2-2, by the way.
It's 2-2 because of literally the speed of light on the Aaron Gordon putback, and the Russell Westbrook Mario Kart came up good, and they came back from down 15 in the second half of Game 1. If you take away those 2 crazy finishes, which, by the way, they won Game 1 in overtime, and Game 4 was again, speed of light Aaron Gordon dunk from going to overtime. If they lose both of those games, like I'm sure the win probability said they should have, they would have been swept out 0-4, and I don't know if we would have been as yes, Adelman's going to be the guy.
I don't think so. I don't think so at all.
So is it just Jokic is carrying them to stay in this series?
This goes back to the decisions to move off of these guys, right? To move off of Mike Malone this late in the game, to move off of Taylor Jenkins. What is it, and especially with the Nuggets, because you have an interim GM, but I don't know if he's going to end up getting hired or not. What is it that you are looking for? It does come off, bringing it back to the Kings, it does come off very Doug Christie-esque, where I would be surprised if they restart a whole new search, because you knew that you put these guys in a not great position. If you move on from Isalo in the Grizzlies, then the point of moving off of Jenkins made absolutely no sense. You almost have to hire them.
Well, the Nuggets one is a little different because, okay, so let's play this out. Let's say Jokic carries them to a win tonight. They win the series in 7. It's 2018 LeBron level performance. They're going to get put out by the Thunder in the second round. So would the Nuggets getting put out by the Thunder in round 2 versus the Grizzlies getting put out in round 1 against the Thunder look any different?
I don't know.
I think that's just Jokic.
Yeah.
And if it's just Jokic, maybe they go with a different process. Now, obviously, Adelman's been there for like 8 years, and Isalo just got here like 9 months ago. But I don't see that many, to your point, I don't see that many dissimilarities with the situations. The process just might lead to different results, I think, because the Nuggets have Jokic.
Yeah. So I don't know what's going to happen there. Let's just, for the sake of the drill, say that both of those jobs are open, because they are until they aren't. If I'm, obviously Taylor Jenkins not going back to the Grizzlies, but if I'm Taylor Jenkins and I can mess around and get the and get the Nuggets job or the Suns job, because we know that guy just lives in the luxury tax, then and I got Scott Perry on the phone, and Scott Perry is saying, hey, we kind of got to go now. If this was one of the names, which I don't know that it was, hey, we got to go now if we're going to go. I could see Taylor Jenkins saying, I think I'm going to wait. I have a pretty good track record versus and people could still say I didn't have my best player because he was on Instagram Live and he was also injured. So Taylor Jenkins could say, I'm actually cool. I'm going to see what happens. If you need to know now, then I can't give you that answer now.
And by the way, even if, and this is the thing for these coaches with names, even if the cycle comes and goes and they don't get a job, Taylor Jenkins can go call games on Tuesday night for NBC next year.
For a year.
And then come back around when the cycle starts.
Sound like a genius. And everyone's like, man, what a great basketball mind. That's what happens.
Yeah, he'll go call games with Mark Jones or whoever NBC's going to hire, and then he'll come back around and maybe someone will hire him.
So, the conversation of whether or not Doug was the right fit and the due process, we also don't know how many people were interested in the role. We don't. What we do know is that the two guys that are getting paid a lot of money, the most money on the team, wanted Doug Christie, and the guy that's paying those two guys also wanted Doug Christie. So Scott Perry said, okay, we'll go with Doug Christie. Does this mean that Doug Christie will be successful? Does this mean that Doug Christie will get a fair shot? Let's go over under. When we return, we will set the number of years, and Kyle and myself will guess whether or not Doug will go over or under that said set of years. And you, of course, be a part of the conversation too. 916-339-1140. Allen Stiles, Sacktown Sports.
On the move? Got somewhere to be?
Take Sacramento Kings basketball with you. The Sacktown Sports app will let you stay connected to your passion. Never miss a moment of Sacramento Kings basketball with the Sacktown Sports app. Ready to order?
Yes. We're earning unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with a Capital One Saver card. So let's just get one of everything.
Everything? Fire everything. The Capital One Saver card is at table 27, and they're earning unlimited 3% cash back.
Yes, Chef! This is so nice.
Had a feeling you'd want 3% cash back on dessert.
Ooh, tiramisu.
Earn unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver card. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
This is the story of the one who, as a maintenance specialist for a historic high-rise, knows that vintage charm historically needs constant attention. Which is why when it's time to upgrade turn-of-the-century mechanicals, they turn to Grainger. With easy access to 1 million-plus products and the scale to deliver when and where you need them. The right tools and supplies are never far away. So the one can keep that vintage building running like new. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Allen Stiles. Watch the show on youtube.com/Sacktown Sports 1140.
Or listen on the Sacktown Sports app.
530 says, weren't Gordon's hands still on the ball on that dunk? Did that not matter, or did they miss that? I don't know. I watched that thing so many times. I thought his hands were still on it initially. I just think they couldn't change the call. Whatever the call was at the time, they weren't going to change it.
There's that insane angle from the other side of the basket where literally it's like the light is starting to come on and it's in his hands.
That's the one I saw, but then the other clip frame that I saw is light off on the hand, light on out of the hand. So those are the two kind of dueling scenes.
Worldwide Wob made the point on Twitter. It's literally a speed of light conversation. It's like the light is starting to turn on and it looks like it's on his hand. And then in the next frame, the light is on, but it's off his hand. And literally they don't have a close enough frame to determine whether or not it was in his hand when the light fully came on.
And can I just say, just for the sake of basketball and the sake of great plays, can I just say that on principle, I'm glad that it counted. It was a ridiculous play.
Agreed.
And I'm glad that it counted, because whether or not, the speed of light, the speed of sound, I think that you should always, in doubt, reward the ridiculous plays. And I don't think it was necessarily a reward, because the way they saw it, he did get it off in time. But even if it's that close, I'm okay with it, because it was a crazy play. And it's tough because, you got to box out, but it was an air ball, so it barely got down before Aaron Gordon got up there. So I just say great play, and Clippers put themselves in a bad situation.
Which we'll get to pocket watching later for the games tonight, because the schedule is like all of the Eastern Conference teams have a chance to close out their series at home, and Game 5 Nuggets-Clippers. That Nuggets-Clippers game is going to be so good. That might be the best game of the playoffs so far, is Clippers at Nuggets Game 5 tonight.
Somebody on the Sack Chat, Jared Williams, Nuggets should be up 3-1 because the game before, Gordon had the walk-off dunk. He clanked the dunk that should have put them up by 5. The hell they should. The Clippers should be up 3-1.
That series, the Clippers should have swept.
Yeah, the Clippers got to be. If you are the Clippers, you did kind of play with your food. Obviously, it's hard to say that when you're going up against a former championship team in Jokic and Jamal Murray, but you kind of play with your food, and you can now mess around and lose this series. But in no world should the Nuggets be up 3-1.
No, again, we talked about it earlier. The Clippers were a Aaron Gordon speed of light dunk, and the Russell Westbrook Mario Kart game, because someone made the great joke. Russell Westbrook is just the item box in Mario Kart. It's like sometimes it comes up with the shells, and sometimes it comes up with a banana peel on you. It's like they came back from down 15 in that game 1. I still don't know how the Clippers lost that game. And, if Gordon doesn't count, they go to overtime, and maybe the Clippers are sweeping the Nuggets. There's no way. But I agree with the texter. You forget, this series has been so insane. You forget Kawhi putting up 39 points, going 15 of 18 from the field, and hitting 7 3-pointers. That game's just lost because of how insane this whole series has been.
Yeah, the Nuggets were dead in the water, and they got an opportunity. You got the elevation, so they could win tonight and be in a position to close out the Clippers, and they won on the road too. So both teams have a level of confidence on the road. Let's get to Mitch, who wants to be a part of the conversation, talk about Doug Christie. What's up, Mitch? What you got for us?
How's it going, Alan?
Hey.
I got a few things, but I want to ask you something, because I don't know much about basketball. Well, first, the Clippers deserve to lose because they didn't box out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on these alley loops, can a defender go out and catch the ball, or that's off limits? It's only for the. I mean, that was an alley loop, right? You can't shoot the ball.
No, that was a shot.
Inbound.
It was definitely a shot.
Oh, okay. So I read it wrong. I thought he was inbound and he threw an alley loop.
Yeah.
Right, I'm happy they give Doug Christie a shot. 3 years. And I hope he can somehow help get at least 2 rookies that make the team. We need 2 rookies, and we need another free agent or 2. What do you think? And thanks for taking my call.
Thanks for the call, Mitch. Yeah, well, they'll have to get lucky if they're going to find some rookies. Well, they'll have one from the second round, but that first round, 97% chance that the Kings won't have a pick in the first round, 3% chance that they do. Mitch threw out 3 years. We do not know how many years are on the deal. We just know it's a multi-year deal. We believe it's going to be 2 years and a third-year option. So, Kyle, let's play the game. I was trying to figure out what to set it at, okay? And I think this is the perfect amount. The amount of years that Doug Christie will be head coach, the over-under is set at 1.5. 1.5 years. Are you saying longer or shorter?
Yeah, that's the perfect spot to put it. God. So this is the tough part, right? Because we've talked about it a couple times today. If we get to 2026 offseason, Levine can opt out of his player option. Keegan restricted free agency. Keon unrestricted free agent. Sabonis will have 2 years left on his deal, which in the modern NBA, you saw what just happened with Jimmy when they got to 1 year on the deal. It's like, with 2 years left, we got to decide what are we doing here. So I guess I'm banking on how good the season is going to be. Before I answer the question, let me ask you, in your mind, how good would they have to do for you to say with 90% confidence
that he'll make it through next year? That
he, Sabonis, and Levine will all make it through next year?
I think it's the same line. I think it's playoffs. If they make it to the playoffs, they will keep ride. They will ride it till the wheels fall off.
Even if that means extending Levine?
Well, they wouldn't have to. He's got a player option.
No, I mean, but like, what if Levine is like, hey, can we like decline and then work out a long-term deal kind of situation?
If Vivek's boy gets them to the playoffs, he's getting extended, whether we want that or not.
So then I guess the question is, are they, as it stands right now?
Are you going to answer the question?
Look, I don't want to say no outright because then that makes it seem like I don't think they can make the playoffs.
It's a simple yes or no question.
Because I'm going to answer the under, but then it makes it sound like I don't think they're going to make the playoffs next year.
Wow. Yeah, it's that simple.
Yeah, there's so much that has to happen.
No, it's that simple. They either make the playoffs or they don't.
Zion could be here next year. Like, I have no idea whether they're going to make the playoffs next year.
That's part of the game.
So, I mean, looking at it right now, I guess I would say less than 1.5 years.
I'm saying more because I believe in Doug Christie.
And
I believe in the Beam. And I believe in the Sacramento Kings, unlike San Diego Kyle.
This is what I was trying to avoid.
Unlike Mission Beach Kyle, I breathe the city of trees, and I've been dealing with allergies because of it. Yeah. But I believe in Doug Christie and the Sacramento Kings over 1.5 years.
See, look what you've done to me. You made it sound like I don't think the Kings are going to make the playoffs next year, and I think it's going to fall apart.
I think the Kings make the playoffs next year. And yeah, it's that simple. The Kings don't make the playoffs. I think Scott Perry says, hey, man, I was able to work around it. There's a lot of gook here, right? The contracts, Doug Christie's connected to Sabonis. If this is the best I could do in a very, very good situation, and we're going to talk about how good this situation is based on other teams that are kind of out there and available, and we weren't able to get it done. So,
yeah,
this was our deal. We think that there could be a deal. We think that there could be a deal in place where it's, hey, Vivek, we can continue with this situation for another year, and after that year, let's maybe get closer to starting from scratch.
Look, if they end up with Ja Morant or Trae Young, I'm probably going to be like they have a much better chance of making the playoffs. But if I would say like 55, 60%, I feel like Doug's not going to make it, which is, I guess, me saying if we make it in layman's terms, as it stands right now, I'm like 55, 60% sure the Kings aren't going to make the playoffs next year. But we have so much to go. I don't even feel good like saying that's my final answer.
We discuss why this is the best offseason for Scott Perry to flex his network muscles when we return. Allen Stiles, Sacktown Sports.
The only place you'll find Malik Monk is Sacktown Sports.
Oh my, what an athletic move that time by Malik Monk.
Hey Sacramento, it's Malik Monk and you're listening to the home of the Sacramento Kings, Sacktown Sports.
Your local sports leader.
The IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship is back for another thrilling season at Monterey's iconic WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, May 9th through the 11th. Only in Monterey can you experience a high-octane mix of international drivers, cutting-edge prototypes, and GT sports cars racing wheel to wheel. There'll be gourmet food, wine, craft beers, family entertainment, and exclusive fan engagement with the drivers in the open race paddock. Buy your tickets now and experience world-class motorsports. Visit WeatherTechRaceway.com.
Hello, Sacramento. I'm Emran Pilati, owner of True Sports Cards and Collectible Store here in Rockland, California, and the host of the True Sports Cards Show that airs right here on Sacktown Sports 1140 every Saturday from 10 to 11 a.m., where we discuss the latest trends, hottest products, and deliver exclusive interviews with other industry leaders. And don't forget to visit our shop, True Sports Cards, at 6661 Stanford Ranch Road in Rockland and see what we have for all your sports card and memorabilia needs.
Advanced Infusion Center, where we prioritize your comfort and well-being. Whether you're managing a chronic condition or seeking specialized IV therapy, our state-of-the-art center offers tailored solutions to meet your needs. Advanced Infusion Center's dedicated healthcare professionals are here to ensure your safety and provide personalized care. Conveniently located in Sacramento and Yuba City with flexible scheduling options. Experience a new standard in infusion therapy. Visit Advanced Infusion Center today at advancedinfusion.com.
It's the final days of the spring sales event. Drive home your new Honda before the deals and the new Hondas disappear. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop.
Looking to own or lease? During the spring sales event, drive a brand new Accord or Civic. Visit us today at FolsomLakeHonda.com, your one-stop Honda shop.
As a family-owned and operated dealership since 2009, customer service is our number one priority. Our customers love doing business with us, and you will too.
Folsom Lake Honda, yeah, your one-stop Honda shop.
Sacramento's premier country music festival, Country in the Park, is coming back May 16th and 17th at Cal Expo with Bailey Zimmerman, Billy Currington, Cole Wetzel, Nate Smith, and more. You'll enjoy food trucks, rock walls, and a mechanical bull, line dancing, and more. Single-day GA tickets start at $52 at CITPFest.com. Country in the Park, May 16th and 17th with Sky River Casino, Hop Valley Brewing, and Naturewood Home Furnishings. Find out more at CITPFest.com.
Switch to Comcast Business Mobile and save hundreds a year on your wireless bill. Comcast Business, powering possibilities.
Restrictions apply. Comcast Business Internet required. Compares 2 unlimited intro lines and lowest price 5G plans of top 3 carriers. Taxes and fees extra. Reduced speed after 30 gigabytes of usage. Data thresholds may vary.
Get ready for Monster Truck Madness, featuring Rockstar, California Kid, Identity Theft, Spitfire, Reverse, Titan, and Monster Truck Rides. Saturday, May 10th with 2 back-to-back shows at the San Joaquin County Fairgrounds. Shows at 3 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. Grab your tickets now. StuckInDirtTrack.com. Allen Stiles
You can join the show by texting 916-339-1140
on Sacktown Sports.
My phone was incessantly ringing during the break. I said, hey, I'm working here. I got a show to do. And that show is the Allen Stiles Show, taking you up to 2 p.m. Kyle Ledbetter behind the glass for us. And Scott Perry, he can talk. Nobody's going to deny that. He can definitely make you feel good about a situation. Now, people are questioning whether or not it is just that talk, as the phone was ringing incessantly, but then less than a week later, you move forward with Doug Christie. Now, he did say that there was a chance, but during the presser, the intro presser for Scott Perry, he didn't make it seem like they were heading in the direction of Doug Christie, or he made it seem like he truly didn't know. Maybe at the time he didn't, or maybe he's just really good at this media thing. With that being said, based on what we know about Scott Perry outside of what he's told us on these airwaves, home of the Sacramento Kings, and in the intro presser, it is known that he's got a network, that he's been around for a long time, that he has relationships with agents, he has relationships with players, he has relationships with coaches. And in this world, regardless of what industry you're in, more often than not, it's not what you know, it's who you know. We all know that kid, that person that comes in and gets the internship that you thought your kid was going to get because that kid knows somebody. You thought you were going to get the job, but you didn't go in as a referral. You had 4 years experience, but somebody with the referral that only had 2 years, they got the job. It's not what you know, it's who you know. So with all that being said, Scott Perry and what he has said to us time and time again about his networks and his connections and what we've heard from others throughout the basketball world. You could argue, and this is kind of an argument to not work around the edges, if I'm being completely honest, because this offseason, you have a ridiculous amount of teams that have decisions to make on some really good players. There are a lot of teams in flux. There are a lot of teams in limbo. And as much as the conversation may be to work around the edges, you can make the argument this is not the offseason to do that. This is the offseason to flex those networks, flex those connections, and see what you can do. Kyle and I just cooked up this list, and if we're missing any teams, please let us know. These are the teams that have some really tough decisions to make along with the Kings, and they can make certain decisions as we go along. The Milwaukee Bucks, the Miami Heat, the Memphis Grizzlies, the Atlanta Hawks, the Phoenix Suns, the Charlotte Hornets, the New Orleans Pelicans, the Utah Jazz, the Portland Trail Blazers, and we'll see what happens because they're in the playoffs right now with the Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets are in pencil. We don't know. If they make a deep run, they're probably just going to keep it rolling. But that is a lot of teams that have some decisions to make. If I'm Scott Perry, I'm rubbing my hands, man. I'm rubbing my hands like the Birdman meme. It's time to cook. The Bucks, we know his connection to some of the players on the Bucks, like Bobby Portis. The Heat have $60 million coming off the books in expiring contracts. They might use that to go get a big fish. Kevin Durant's been connected to the Heat. Or do they finally decide to say uncle? I don't think they will because I had a buddy. He told me that his dad would always say to him that squirrels are just rats with better PR because they got bushy tails, so they're cute. Squirrels are just rats with better PR. The Heat are the Kings with better PR.
Oh, yeah, you're not wrong.
That's what they are. And yes, they've had the finals runs because they've had Jimmy Butler, but they botched the Jimmy Butler thing. They botched it.
The Kings botched the Jimmy Butler thing. Now they both have a former Timberwolf that everyone's mad at.
There you go. They did. They were the first 10 seed, and then they got their butts whooped, and they got embarrassed. And they got guys that they refused to let go of because they got Eric Spoelstra. That's the only difference. They have held on to Eric Spoelstra. But post-LeBron era, Butler thing is a Jimmy Butler thing, but their refusal to just say uncle and rebuild, very similar to the Kings, but the Heat are the squirrels and the Kings are the rats of the NBA.
Well, at least the Kings never said, hey, let's start Davion Mitchell at point guard.
Yeah, well, maybe they should have. Off night is off for the night and for the foreseeable nights.
Yeah, Miami one is very interesting. I don't know if we'll get to him as a trade candidate, but how do I say this? Andrew Wiggins and Zach LaVine are still very good friends. People may remember that they were both the rookie class members in Minnesota in 2014. They played 3 years together. They are still very good friends and have a great relationship, if that's a candidate the Kings want to consider. You know, DeRozan wanted to go to Miami last year. That's all I'm saying.
I would do DeRozan for Wiggins now.
Well,
now that's not even a question.
It's a possibility that may make more sense than people realize because like I said, Zach LaVine and Wiggins, they're still very good friends.
You start and not to get off track here, but then you start looking around and thinking, okay, well, we do need a number. Where is the number one? Right? That's the problem with DeMar DeRozan being your number one. He leaves because, you need the defense, and he leaves, and then you're looking around thinking, okay, well, who's supposed to score the basketball?
Why? Because then the Kings would be the 2016 Timberwolves with better PR?
Yeah. Well, it wouldn't be with better PR.
I'd say better PR. That team was Wiggins, LaVine, and Carl, so I would say probably have a little bit better PR than that.
And then you find a way to get Jimmy Butler once the Warriors get Giannis. The Hawks, they got some decisions to make. The obvious conversation there is Trae Young. You have the Grizzlies. We've already talked about Ja Morant. The Jaren Jackson Jr. thing, honestly, I think Jaren Jackson Jr. would cost you way more than Ja Morant right now. And I like the idea of Jaren Jackson Jr. and Sabonis, and we can throw him on as a trade target. But I think if you're the Grizzlies, are you more willing to move on from Jaren Jackson Jr. or Ja? I feel like you're more willing to move on from Ja.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think they're about to cash out Jaren Jackson Jr. because, again, we know offense drives ratings and people love scoring and all that stuff. But at the same time, Jaren Jackson Jr. is a defensive player of the year, and he plays the 4. Do you know how hard that is to be a defensive player of the year who's not a center?
You have the Suns, who obviously we all know the Suns situation. If the Kings were better, I would take a Grayson Allen. I would take the Duke connection. I'd take Grayson Allen and Tyus Jones. I just, again, you start looking around and you start wondering, all right, well, when Zach LaVine's not doing his thing, who's going to score the basketball? And maybe I'm underselling Malik Monk, but look, I don't know how much I want to depend on Malik Monk moving forward from a number one. Somebody needs to be a number one. We've learned that time and time again in this league. So I don't know what you do with the Suns. It seems like if Devin Booker goes anywhere, it's to Detroit or to Houston, or he just doesn't go anywhere.
Since you brought it up, is Grayson Allen like the best case version of Devin Carter at this point?
Ooh. I mean, isn't Grayson Allen like 6'7"?
Yeah, but I'm just saying, kind of like, if I asked you, because again, he only makes $16.8 million. If I said right now, hey, Phoenix, because the Kings can make.
I think I would like to believe, and I'm not, I wanted Dalton Connect, but I would like to believe Devin Carter. I'm going more Derek White. I'm praying.
If that's the swap, though, because again, he's making $16.8 million, which they can absorb into a trade exception. If it's just Grayson Allen for Devin Carter,
no.
I'm not saying that's on the table, but
I'm not doing it because that just means you took the wrong pick.
All right.
Sorry.
That's all I wanted to know. But yes, Phoenix also at a crossroad.
I want to see what's up with the Pelicans. And I know we already talked about DeJounte Murray and CJ McCollum. I know he was injured, but what's up with Herb Jones? Can we get a Herb Jones? Where is he at? I know he was injured all season, but they still got Trey Murphy, Herb Jones. They're a little redundant to me. I don't know what the Pelicans are doing. He's coming off an injury. Maybe his value's a little down. Go get me Herb Jones.
He's got $14 million next year and $15 million the year after. And then he's a free agent.
I'm in on that. 916 says Grayson 6'4". Okay. I can see it. I still would hope that Devin Carter is closer to Derek White than Grayson Allen.
You would rather take Devin Carter as the backup 2 right now than go Grayson Allen.
Yes. If you asked me that last season, maybe it'd be different, but Grayson Allen completely lost his confidence and lost his role this past season. So I don't know what I'm signing up for.
It's also 2 years of Grayson versus potentially 6 years of team control for Devin Carter.
Yeah, and Devin Carter, they probably got the same wingspan because how long Devin Carter's arms are. The Hornets, look, I'm not going to get into it. The problem with there's a lot of problems with the Miles Bridges situation, but the issue is that he really would be a good piece. Like I said, not getting into the off the court stuff. I'm not saying that anybody should go in that direction, but everybody is looking for that type of player. As far as LaMelo is concerned, I think the Hornets are just, hoping that they can land Cooper Flag and build around something. So I don't know what to do with the Hornets. The Mark Williams thing, I don't think you could play with Mark Williams and Domantas Sabonis. That's terrible spacing. That's worse spacing than Valanciunas and Domantas Sabonis. The Jazz, Look, man, I was talking to somebody in the chat during the break. I'd take Colin Sexton at $18 million. I would. I'm sorry. I would. My issue with Colin Sexton is he's a point guard that averages 4 assists a game. That's not very point guardy to me. That's Zach LaVine. That's a mini Zach LaVine.
He would essentially be a free agent signing that you have to give up some second-round picks for, or maybe a protected first. I don't know what Colin Sexton's value is.
The Jazz, the other team that doesn't have a point guard, they have Jordan Clarkson and Colin Sexton.
Don't they have another young guy there too?
What, Keontae George?
He's not really a point guard. I feel like
They don't have one.
They had to have drafted they've had like 6 draft picks. They had to have drafted one by now. It's gotta be.
Go find it.
Gotta be
530 says, would you take D'Angelo Russell? No. No to D'Angelo Russell. He doesn't play defense. He plays like a turtle. He's just slow as molasses. I can't watch that, man.
That's right. They have Isaiah Collier.
Sure.
And he was supposed to go in the lottery once upon a time.
Yeah, he was. Give me Colin Sexton, even though he's another combo-esque. But I'll take Colin Sexton at $18 million right now.
Well, I'm looking at this team. It's looking rough next year.
Because he's a dog. Marketing? Are we going to do the Can we do the marketing? Are we more likely to do the marketing thing this summer? And when I say we, I just say Sacramento Kings media as a whole. We doing the marketing thing this summer, or are we doing the Cam Johnson thing this summer?
Cam Johnson for sure. I'm telling you, that marketing contract is going to be untradeable.
Give me a pick.
And what, you're dumping Zach LaVine? That's the only way to make it work.
Give me a pick, baby.
You're saying Zach LaVine and a pick? Or I'm sorry, Markkanen and a pick for LaVine?
I'm in.
I am not.
Still don't have a number one. We don't have a number one. We don't have a point guard. And we don't have another wing unless Jake LaRavia just really likes urban roots in the farm to fork capital of the world.
Alan, I don't think you understand. Markkanen signed a 5-year max for $200 million that hasn't even started yet. It starts this year.
Yeah.
That is going to be a terrible contract, a terrible deal.
On the other side, we finished the list and who's available. And the difference between these teams and the Kings. Allen Stiles, Sactown Sports.
Domantas Sabonis plays here.
He finds Sabonis. Put the frosting on the cake. Put the cherry on the sundae. Sabonis with a 2-hand flush makes it 114-106.
Sactown Sports is your proud home of the Sacramento Kings.
Spring into deals and save on seasonal projects at Lowe's. Right now, get 5 select 1-pint annuals for just $10. Plus, get a free 60-volt Toro battery when you purchase a select 60-volt Toro electric mower. Don't miss out on these fresh spring deals. Shop in-store or online today. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 4/30 while supplies last. Actual plant size and selection varies by location. Excludes Hawaii.
Progressive knows when you're in your RV, you're already on vacation. That's when you become Vacation You, who just camped where there's absolutely no shade. Even though regular you burns easily. In fact, Vacation You burns too, but is too stubborn to admit it, which is why regular you gets in trouble at the dermatologist because Vacation You doesn't do doctors. So bundle your RV with your home or auto policy and earn an automatic discount from Progressive. And spend the savings on the both of you. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers. Not available in all states or situations.
Allen Stiles here with your Sactown Sports injury update, brought to you by Downtown LA Law Group. Jose Leclerc, right-handed pitcher out with that right lat strain, is currently shut down from throwing. Will receive a second opinion with the doctor this week. Zach Geloff, out with that fractured right hand, is set to begin a rehab assignment with AAA Las Vegas this week as well. Goal is to get around 35 at-bats, and that will put him in line for a return in early May. This injury report was brought to you by Downtown LA Law Group. Hey, I'm Allen Stiles. Have an injury? Call Downtown. Downtown LA Law Group, an injury law firm, has many happy clients in Sacramento and the surrounding areas who have called Downtown. Get paid for your injuries from slip and falls or auto accidents. One of their most recent settlements was $1.5 million for a motorcycle accident. Have you had an auto accident? Call Downtown. Text injury help to 40222. That's injury help to 40222. and visit them at calldowntown.com.
Power Business Technology is proud to be a 100% independent, locally owned and managed Toshiba copier dealer. Local ownership cuts out the red tape, allowing ourselves to never be too busy to personally answer the call when our clients need us. Recognized for excellence in service execution, training, and customer service, we're proud to be named a Toshiba ProMasters Elite Dealer since 2021. Contact us today for all your business printing needs at 844-POWER-BZ. That's 844-769-3729 or visit us at powercopiers.com.
This is the story of the one who, as a maintenance specialist for a historic high-rise, knows that vintage charm historically needs constant attention. Which is why when it's time to upgrade turn-of-the-century mechanicals, they turn to Grainger. With easy access to 1 million+ products and the scale to deliver when and where you need them, the right tools and supplies are never far away. So the one can keep that vintage building running like new. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
There's no better time than now to get yourself into a brand new Jeep because it's Jeep Adventure Days at Sacramento Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, offering the best deals in town and a selection other dealers are jealous of. Stop on by. They're just off of Business 80 across from Hagen Oaks Golf Complex. Sacramento Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram.
Live and local.
It's Allen Stiles
On Sacktown Sports.
Finishing our list, and Coach Eric Martins, third base coach for the Athletics, joins us in 15 minutes for our weekly coaches show every Tuesday. A's are 6-4 their last 10 games. They are currently third in the division in a pretty good AL West. So we'll talk to Coach, see how they're feeling. They are starting out a series against the Rangers, who the Rangers obviously won the World Series a couple years ago. The A's won the series in Sacramento. So how will they fare as they head to Texas? So we will talk to, and they already started that series and they won yesterday as well. So they are rocking and rolling. They've played pretty darn well against the Rangers. So we'll talk to Coach Eric Martins in about 15 minutes. So to finish out the list, we ended with the Jazz, who are we still doing John Collins? Is that still a thing? Everybody wanted John Collins. I guess I can ask Kyle Draper about that. John Collins, anybody? John Collins?
You willing to trade DeRozan for him?
Yes.
What? Really?
I don't know.
That seems like you're selling really low on DeRozan.
I don't know what DeMar DeRozan's value is.
More than John Collins.
Hey, just create new issues. So you move on from DeMar DeRozan, you get John Collins. Now you fix the wing issue. Now you have no scoring.
You were just willing to trade him for DeJounte Murray like an hour ago, and now you're like, well, I'll settle for John Collins.
Hey, man, I don't know what DeMar DeRozan's value is. I know he can score the basketball at a high level, but I have no clue what that value is for DeMar DeRozan. And, you know, the Jordan Clarkson, I just don't think Jordan Clarkson is going to be a guy that can help the Kings, too similar to Malik Monk in that way. Before we get to the last couple of names, we had Bam Adebayo who spoke as far as the Heat are concerned, and this is what he had to say about whether they will keep the band together or not.
I don't know. It's going to be a lot of changes this summer. Just from my point of view, understanding how, you know, the guy with the silver hair works. So just be prepared for that. And, you know, for me, man, it's understanding I got to figure out how to win a game in the playoffs. You understand how hard it is when you actually get into these trenches. So you take that and you figure it out.
That was Bam Adebayo on the possible fire sale. Yeah, you know Pat Riley is going to be cooking up something. We just don't know exactly what it's going to be. Look, you talk about the Heat. Like I said, they have a lot of money coming off the books, but you talk about the Heat, and I know we mentioned Andrew Wiggins, but look, is it time to come off Jaime Jaquez? I'm in there. Is it time? Nikola Jovic? I'm in there.
I mean, they're all still rookie contract guys.
Yeah, they're keeping all of them, aren't they? Anybody that we would actually want. The only one, and we're going to do a full-on trade target breakdown for this guy, would be Tyler Hero. That's the one.
Can I interest you in, let's see, who else we got here? Kyle Anderson?
No. Hell no.
Duncan Robinson?
No. I just see Kevin Huerter 2.0.
Haywood Highsmith?
Yeah, at least he can't kill the Kings if he's on the Kings. No.
I'm out of options for you. Oh, they still have Alec Burks. He's another Kings killer.
Yeah? No.
Yeah, then I'm out of options for you.
Wow. Okay, well, the last team to mention, the Portland Trail Blazers, a team we are very familiar with good old Jeremy Grant. And somebody, I'm just waiting for the text. As soon as we bring up the Portland Trail Blazers, the text that says, what about Chris Murray? And I always ask that texter, have you seen Chris Murray play basketball? That is normally my response when anybody asks about Chris Murray. But Jeremy Grant, DeAndre Ayton, those are the guys that don't fit the timeline. Matisse Thybulle, who played in about 14 games this season.
Still got Time Lord. Can't get on the floor.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Robert Williams.
I don't think he's played a single minute of basketball since being traded. The Celtics, we don't talk about that enough. That man played with a broken leg, and the Celtics ruined his body for a run that Steph Curry beat them in the finals.
So I don't know who the Blazers, there's a reason they're on this list. Do they have anybody that the Kings would want?
Have you thought about Chris Murray?
Have you watched Chris Murray play basketball? The only guy, and you know I love this guy, 6'9", 24 years old, only making $14 million. Give me Denny Avdia all day long. Find a way to Sacramento for Denny.
There's no way they could make that happen.
Why not?
Denny Avdia is on the Ringer's top 100 players list. He's been amazing this season.
Yeah, but, he doesn't fit their timeline.
You want to trade Keegan Murray?
So, funny thing about that is this came up at a dinner at the media table before a Kings game. I got fried. I'm not going to say what I said, but all I'm going to tell you is that I really like Denny Avdia.
Yeah, because he's really good. And
he's 24.
Yes, he's a foundational piece.
I will say this. Those people, and you know who you are because I know you're listening, that laughed me off the table, I don't think I'd be laughed off the table now. I don't think I would.
Yeah, Denny Avdia is really good. A player, he might be the only player other than honestly, I think they could be moved off of Scoot. I think him and Tamani Kamara are the two guys where they're like, nope, we're not trading them.
I'm just looking here, and Denny, he's in one of those situations where his deal is almost too good. I think, to your point, Kyle, somebody will probably get closer to overpaying for Denny, and the Kings would say, okay, well, we like him, but we don't like him that much. I think that's what's going to happen with Denny. I think somebody goes and gets him and probably pays more than the Kings, not literally by money because he's only making $14 million, but the picks and whatever it would cost.
I mean, Brooklyn said no to 2 firsts for Cam Johnson, and Denny Avdia is a better player than Cam Johnson.
Yeah.
So I don't know what Denny Avdia would go for.
Well, I think, he was in Washington and he was starting to figure it out. And if the Blazers knew what in the world they were doing, they really did hit a home run on that trade. It's just the rest of their roster. You got Shaedon Sharpe with the team option, Donovan Clingan, who's the rookie. I already talked about Matisse Thybulle and Time Lord. You got Anthony Simons, who I think he's only got one more year, but he's making $27 million. I believe Anthony Simons probably finds his way to Orlando. That's what I think is going to happen.
Anthony Simons is in the John Collins Atlanta territory where it's like, we know he's a guy, but no one wants him.
Then, and the 916 is making a good point. I would do Keegan for Denny only because when you extend Keegan, he's probably going to cost you $20-25 million. That's a great point, 916.
But so is Denny's in 2 years.
Yeah, in 2 years.
But that's Keegan in 1 year. I mean, what are we talking about here?
Got to save money, man.
For one year.
It's a 3-year. I think Denny is going into that though.
You're saying Denny has 3 years left on his deal?
That's what it says on Fanspo.
Yeah.
He signed a 4-year, $55 million contract.
Oh, yeah. You're right.
Yeah.
Oh, it goes down over time too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You might have to make the call.
I mean, I just don't think. I think Portland has found their wings of the future in Denny and Tumani.
The problem is the guards.
Well, the problem is they just don't have a number one. They're the same. They're like the beta version of Houston, where you said they look like they're playing without their number one. Their problem is they just don't have a number one, which I'm going to throw this out into the universe. I know some Kings fans want him. They would be perfect for Zion Williamson. Perfect situation.
The Blazers.
If they gave up Simons, Klingon, the lottery pick this year, maybe throw in another one of those young guys.
You do a 3-team deal, so Advia ends up in Sacramento.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I think it's going to be Advia, Tumani, and Zion in this future world.
And Tumani didn't he get defensive player of the year votes?
Yeah. I think
this is crazy.
He's going to make all NBA or all defense this year.
This is crazy, man.
Look, Portland would be perfect for Zion at this point if they made that move.
And we've been, I feel, pretty optimistic today, just as far as our expectations. And I think most people don't have a problem with Doug as the head coach. It's just a process. We get all that. This isn't going to be very optimistic, what I'm about to say. You look at the Bucks, you look at the Heat, you look at the Grizzlies, all the teams we named, the Hawks, the Hornets, the Pelicans, the Jazz, the Blazers, and if you want to throw the Nuggets in there, the difference between all of those teams and the Kings is that they all have escape valves. They all have red buttons that they can press and find a new path. The Kings don't have that. The Bucks with Giannis, you're going to get a bunch back. Restart. Start the healing process. The Heat, if they want, they got $60 million coming off the books. The Grizzlies obviously have Ja, Jaren, Jackson, plenty they could get back in return. The Hawks got talent. It's probably the Suns. The Kings and the Suns are the two that are in the toughest spots. But again, Devin Booker is better than anybody on the Kings. The Hornets, if you want to deal LaMelo, see if you get lucky and you can get lucky in the draft. Pelicans, they do have plenty of talent. The Jazz are obviously they're going to use those picks at some point that they got from the deals that they've made. They got plenty of picks. Blazers have young talent and they have guys. I think the Jeremy Grant thing is probably going to burn them, but it's okay if one thing burns you. And we know the Nuggets have the best player or one of the best players in the world right now. The Kings don't have anything, no escape valve to hang their hat on. Eric Martins joins us, Coach's Show. We return. Don't go anywhere. 4 minutes. Allen Stiles, Sacktown Sports.
Online, easy way to get life insurance in 10 minutes. Ethos has rates that you can afford, like a $500,000 policy for a 40-year-old male starting at $1 a day or $30 a month with a few health questions and no medical exam. Get your free quote right now at checkethos.com. That's checkethos.com. Not available in all states. Rates do vary.
This is a story of the one. As a maintenance specialist for university housing, he knows college students can major in wear and tear. Plus, housing so many students doesn't leave a lot of room to house all the supplies he needs. That's where Grainger comes in. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast, dependable delivery, Grainger carries the quality products he needs so he doesn't have to. From a new door hinge to a whole new faucet. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Ready to order?
Yes. We're earning unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver Card. So let's just get one of everything.
Everything?
Fire everything. The Capital One Saver Card is at table 27 and they're earning unlimited 3% cash back.
Yes, Chef! This is so nice.
Had a feeling you'd want 3% cash back on dessert.
Ooh, tiramisu.
Earn unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver Card. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
This is the story of the one who, as a maintenance specialist for a historic high-rise, knows that vintage charm historically needs constant attention. Which is why, when it's time to upgrade turn-of-the-century mechanicals, They turn to Grainger. With easy access to 1 million plus products and the scale to deliver when and where you need them. The right tools and supplies are never far away. So the one can keep that vintage building running like new. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
What would it take for a plumbing company to earn your trust? Jerry and Kenny here from Bell Brothers. And let's face it, plumbing and service companies don't always have the best reputation.
So to earn your trust, the first thing they'd have to do is actually answer the phone when you call with a real live person. Then they'd have to send a plumber when you needed them, day or night, without charging extra for emergency services.
A trustworthy plumber would show up on time, wearing a clean uniform and name badge, and be able to show that they had passed a background check and drug test.
A plumber you could trust would give you a firm quote on the job before starting and clean up after they finish the job.
That's exactly the plumber you'll get when you call Bell Brothers, a plumber you can trust. Call Bell Brothers right now for all your plumbing needs. Our number is 916-444-1234, or find us online at thenosurpriseguys.com.
The No Surprise Guys, Bell Brothers.
Save $12,750 off MSRP. Every new 2025 Silverado 1500 LT and RST 5.3 in stock at the Maida Chevy Silverado Super Center. After all rebates.
And Maida Chevy still has one of the largest selections in the Sacramento area.
$12,750 off new Silverado exclusively at the Maida Chevy Silverado Super Center. Now that's big, huge. See them all at MaidaChevy.com. Together, let's drive.
Frustrating 2011 or newer. Not available with special financing, lease, and some other offers.
KHTK HD1 Sacramento, KYMX HD3 Sacramento. From the Power Business Technology Toshiba Studios.
Sacktown Sports, 1140. Live and local.
It's Allen Stiles
On Sacktown Sports.
It is time for our weekly coaches show with Eric Martins, third base coach for the Athletics. Coach, as always, thank you so much for joining us. How you doing?
I'm great. How you doing?
Good. You know, I got to say real quick, and we'll get into it a little bit more. I did make my way to my first A's game. It was on Saturday. It was the Saturday game with the rain. That was rough. I got to go back, man. My guy Lawrence Butler wasn't even playing, my favorite player on the team. I picked a rough, and I think the Sox got you in that game. I got to make my way back, man.
Yeah, you need a better first impression than that. Plus, you got us an L, so you got to make up for it, man. Come on.
I'm 0-1, man. That is, I'm talking to somebody. There was a home run hit in the first inning. I think, oh my Lord, I gotta get out of here, man. What am I doing, Coach? With that being said, you lost that one, but you're 6-4 your last 10 games. You're third in the AL West, one of the toughest divisions in baseball. What's been working for the guys in green right now?
We're finding a way to win some of these games right now, which is good. That's a sign of a good team of just chipping away and finding ways to win games late. We haven't played the way we expect to play yet, which is, which is good in a sense. We're finding ways to win differently. Last night, JP went out there and threw a gem. We scored 2 runs on 1 hit, and we win 2-1. Mason Miller closes it out. So, the ingredients, we played good defense. We got a big hit from Soderstrom, and we pitched well. And so if we can do that in the division against this team, it sets us up for being pretty good this season.
Talking to Coach Eric Martins, Athletics third base coach. So you won the series against the Rangers out here in Sacramento. Now you're out there in Arlington, and you win last night. Is it a situation where you feel like you're playing up to competition, or does it feel like you maybe just have their number? I know it's early on in the season. You're going to see them a ton because it's in the division. But what's been going on with the A's and the Rangers? Feels like you've been playing them pretty tough, and that's the team that a lot of people have picked to win the World Series.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to last year. We played them well last year, and I think it's just a sense with the team that we can compete with those guys. They're the best, supposed to be the best in the division. We want to go out there and show them that, look, we're pretty good, and we're getting better each year. Each year we're getting better and continuing to go out there and play some good games against them. So the more that we go out and compete and win some of these games, the more confidence it has on our team and in the division. It's letting them know that we're real.
Yeah, talking to Coach Eric Martins, athletics third base coach. Coach, while, and it's funny because talked about Nick Kurtz, obviously his crazy story, getting to the big leagues in 9 months. And I'm talking about him this whole time. It's not until I go to the game, I look on the big screen, long story short, he went, my wife is from small town in Pennsylvania. He went to the rival high school in Pennsylvania. So they're both from the same area. So of course I told my in-laws. So they're all big Nick Kurtz fans now. What have you seen from the kid getting pulled up, just a week or so ago? What have you seen from him? Is he exactly what you expected? Is he still finding his way? What have you seen from the rookie?
Oh, he's special. He's a special talent, and you can see it in him. And he's such a good kid. He's a hard worker. You watch him take BP, and the ball jumps off his bat. He's just not a slugger. He's a hitter. He's really good defensively at first base. He's a big dude, man.
Yeah.
And he moves around pretty good. So which surprises you a little bit because you see how big he is. You think he's not going to move well, but he moves really well at first base. He's just trying to get acclimated and get settled in now. You know what I mean? It's the big leagues. It's the best of the best. So they're going to make adjustments. He's going to have to make adjustments. But at the end of the day, I expect him to do Nick Kurtz things, and he's going to be a big part of our lineup.
So explain the situation to me, because baseball is different than other sports. I know there can be two-way guys in the NBA, but most of the time, they're rookies that get drafted. If you're a Nick Kurtz type player, you're going to be on the main squad. In the NFL, we just had the draft, and those rookies are going to get pranked or have rookie things that they have to do. How does that work in baseball? Because you bounce up, you bounce down. Are there still some pranks and things that vets get to do to rookies?
I'm gonna try to frame it in a way where no one gets in trouble, but yes, there is. I mean, he gets his first hit. There's going to be something they're going to do in the clubhouse that they're going to celebrate his first hit. But we do have a rookie day coming pretty soon, where it's going to be something special out there. Mm-hmm. So I think that's in a few weeks. I know the vets are talking about what kind of outfits they want to have these guys in. Last year it was like Olympic theme, so we had swimmers, we had wrestlers in the in the dress up with the ears. So they do a good job of picking the pranks that they're going to have with these rookies, and I can't wait for that.
Talking to Coach Eric Martins, third base coach for the Athletics. Coach, I told you Lawrence Butler wore the number that I used to wear when I was playing, lefty as well. He's struggled a little bit. Kind of talk us through the balance when it comes to helping a guy through some of the struggles. He signs that contract. Everybody's excited. Everybody thinks he's right on that cusp of being a superstar, very personable. He did so much with Major League Baseball in the offseason. Love seeing him on that stage. He struggled a little bit early on here. What's that balance of trying to help a guy, but also not get too much in the way and have them get in their head even more so than any baseball player is already in their head?
Lawrence is a special talent, and at the end of the year, he's going to put up his numbers and he's going to look what it is. It's the beginning of the year. He started off slow, then he caught on fire for a while. That's just kind of baseball right now, and I think he puts a ton of pressure on himself because he wants to be good and he wants to be great. I mean, there's some added things to it. He signed the contract. The All-Star game is in Atlanta this year. There's a lot of things that I'm sure he's thinking about that he's putting a little pressure on himself that he doesn't need to. He just needs to go out and play and be Lawrence Butler. He's special. He's one of those kids that's charismatic. I mean, his talent is off the charts, and he's going to find his way here. It's just like I said, it's baseball, man. You go through these little grinds of a week and a half. You just got to stay. You just got to stay with the process and continue working. And next thing you know, you go 10 for 10, you go 11 for 11, you're back on track. So that's baseball. You can go 0 for 30, and you can go 15 for your next 25. So it's one of those things you just got to be able to right the ship, the at bats in between, where those are the ones that count. You know what I mean? Be a little bit more consistent there, because you're gonna go through a slump. You're gonna get hot. It's the at bats in between that matter the most to stay consistent. So he's gonna be fine. Like I said, about a week ago, he was back on track and he scuffed it a little bit. It's the big leagues, man. These guys are tough, and they're pitching him tough and they're making adjustments on him. He's gonna make the adjustments he needs to make, and he's just gonna be just fine.
It's interesting. back in my day, we didn't necessarily, I kind of finished playing right when the exit velocity thing was starting to pick up. So now I get a bit confused. And honestly, I can be cynical at times when the conversations come up about the exit velo, because my question is, okay, you went 0 for 4, but 2 of those at-bats, you had pretty strong exit velo, whether that be a ground ball, whatever it is. How do you view the exit, or how do the A's view the exit velocity versus the actual results? Taking it back to Lawrence Butler, hey, he actually went 2 for 4 today, but there were 2, we used to call them duck farts. He had 2 duck farts, but he was 2 for 4, so his exit velocity was terrible versus an 0 for 4 day where 2 of those at-bats, his exit velocity was 100+. What's the balance there between, hey, is that a good at-bat anytime your exit velocity is over a certain amount?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, what you want to do, and you want to square the baseball up every at bat. You just want to hit something hard.
Yeah.
You know, your exit velos are going to be a lot higher when you hit them on the ground. So we look for more like the line drives, the balls in the air that he hits. You know what I mean? And those little duck farts that happen, they just even out, because you go for 4 with 4 bullets at 110 miles an hour right at somebody. So we tell these guys to say, look, these things will even out. You're going to get a little broken bat. You're going to get a little duck fart over the second baseman's head. You live and die with those. You know what I mean? But ultimately, your goal at the plate is to hit something hard, square something up, hit it in the big part of the field. And if you do that, you're setting yourself up for success. You know, it's one of those things is you can't go out there and get too caught up in the results just for the fact that there's a ton of at-bats, man, and this game is built on failure. You know, I mean, you're successful 25% of the time. You're making $25 million a year. So you got to look at the big picture. You know what I mean? You got to look at the big picture. If you consistently have those good at-bats, consistently squaring up the baseball, good things are going to happen for you.
Coach Eric Martins, third base coach, also infielders coach. Coach, if my math is correct, because I'm out there doing some stuff with the River Cats as well. If my math is correct, if you include the River Cats games, we're at about close to 30 games here played at Southern Health Park. It was a big topic of discussion, how that field would hold up. Obviously, we're still early in the season. A little bit of rain this past weekend when I went, and it didn't go well. But how has the field been holding up so far?
It's been great. I mean, it's getting better. The infield's starting to settle in a little bit more. The outfield's still a little bouncy, but the grounds crew's working their butt off, man. I mean, I can only commend what they're doing and just respect all the work that they got to do for both teams, and they're busting their butts to get the field ready every single day. The infield's starting to play a lot truer. It was a little bouncy early just because it was a new surface. The outfield's going to take a little time to settle in. I mean, we were able to take advantage of a couple errors on the homestand from the outfielders that kicked some balls and were a little over aggressive because they didn't know the bounces. But at the end of the day, the field's going to be nice. It looks great. You know, Chris and his crew have done an outstanding job of getting that field ready every single day. And they're ahead. They're in for a long summer. So it's whatever we can do to help them out. But I think they're going to do a great job. So it's been nice.
Coach Eric Martins, thank you so much as always. Good luck tonight against the Rangers, and hope the A's continue over 500 and keep moving in that direction. We'll talk to you again next week.
Appreciate it, Alan. Good talking to you as always.
Coach Eric Martins, third base coach and infielders coach for the A's. Great stuff. The A's play tonight, 5 o'clock against the Texas Rangers. When we return, we take a trip around the NBA playoffs. And what are we doing with this Anthony Edwards thing? Allen Stiles, Sacktown Sports.
On the move? Got somewhere to be?
Take Sacramento Kings basketball with you. The Sacktown Sports app will let you stay connected to your passion. Never miss a moment of Sacramento Kings basketball with the Sacktown Sports app.
Thy ticket, Lady Jennifer of Coolidge.
Well, many thanks, good sir. Hereeth my Discover card.
They accept Discover at Renaissance fairs?
Yeah, they do here. Discover is accepted at the places I love to shop. Getteth with the times.
With the times?
You're playing the lute. Yeah, and it sounds pretty good, right?
Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide.
based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Do you find yourself stuck in a timeshare? Get the real facts about the timeshare industry and your options for cancellation. Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, has put together a free information guide that reveals the secrets the timeshare industry doesn't want you to know, including the 5 ways to get rid of your timeshare. Call now and get this timeshare cancellation guide absolutely free.
Call 800-837-5050. That's 800-837-5050. 800-837-5050.
Allen Stiles. Watch the show on youtube.com/SacktownSports1140.
Or listen on the Sacktown Sports app.
Great stuff from Coach Eric Martins as always. Love talking ball with him. And the A's are kind of rolling right now. 6-4, their last 10, and kind of own the Texas Rangers, coach says, going back to last season. So hopefully they continue and move in the right direction. 530 asked the question, why are we not talking more about trying to trade for Zion? I know he has a lot of baggage, but that guy can absolutely be a number one on a championship team. Yeah, we've talked about it We've talked about it in passing. He's definitely going to come up on our trade targets very, very soon. And I would trade not Draymond. I would trade for Zion before I trade for Ja. Easy.
Would you trade for Zion if it meant you have to trade Sabonis?
And I think that becomes a question because that spacing would be terrible. Terrible.
I just don't think they make as much sense together because, like, Zion played with Valanciunas, so it's not like Zion can't play the 4, but Zion's skill set is that of a 5. Sabonis' skill set is that of a very different 5, and so I don't know how they would coexist together as the Twin Towers offense.
I just don't think you'd get the most. You got Zion making $36 million. Next year, he'll make $39 million. So they're both making. Now you have 3 players making $40 million. Number one, I just don't think that's going to happen. And number two, if you are moving in that direction, we just dealt with the whole season of quote unquote fit. If I'm paying $40 million for 2 players, that fit better be fitting.
I've just looked at it as the most plausible path to a Zion trade because I mentioned it before we talked to Eric Martins, right? The Portland Trailblazers would be perfect situation for Zion right now. Mm-hmm. If I give you the Kings package of DeMar DeRozan, Malik Monk, Devin Carter, and picks, and then I give you Portland's of Anthony Simons, Donovan Klingon, a lottery pick in this year's draft, and potentially one of those other, Time Lord or Matisse Thybulle or whoever else, New Orleans is probably going with Portland's package. So
but it's funny that you say that because now it turns into you're turning, if you have the Nets and the Blazers, now you have 2 teams that, based on what you're saying, these teams are doing rebuilds to get young talent to move, right? So there are different versions of rebuilds. There's rebuilding and all your guys are studs. And even the Thunder, they might cash in some of those chips. I don't think they'll cash in Jalen Williams or Chet Holmgren or anybody like that. But the Thunder might cash in somebody if they don't win the whole thing. And we know the Rockets are probably going to cash in Atari East or somebody if they are in the runnings for Devin Booker or Kevin Durant. So now it turns into these teams aren't necessarily rebuilding. They're stinking to get young talent and picks so that they can combine it with some of the players that have worked out and some of the vets that have worked out. Because if you do that deal, Jeremy Grant now is back on the same timeline with the rest of the Blazers. Yeah. And DeAndre Ayton.
Well, are Ayton and Grant on the same? I guess relatively speaking, they
Ayton and Zion play together?
Well, that's the other question. So I guess here's my thought about your question first before we get into the weeds. Originally, we talked about this because it was like all these teams are at a crossroads this summer, right? With the Blazers, I think they went into the rebuild hoping that they would draft the next Cade Cunningham or they would draft the next Zion Williamson.
Scoot Henderson.
So now that, we had the conversation earlier, do you think there's anyone on the Blazers right now who you can definitively say will be a 2-time All-Star in the league?
Besides Denny? No.
That Tamani Kamara.
Or Tamani.
But now that they didn't get that guy, I think they kind of have to ask themselves, if they're willing to offer Zion and the centerpiece of the package is Klingon, and possibly, like you said, Ayton or Anthony Simons or whoever else, if we're making that swap, do we decide we're going to give up on the long-term projectability of a Klingon or a Scoot to get a Ja Morant or a Zion now?
And that's what this comes back to. Whether or not you think Zion Williamson is a foundational piece. Because we talked about this yesterday. Every player in the playoffs, and specifically 6 seed and up, has a foundational piece. That foundational piece might not be young, but a foundational piece. So if you're asking me, should we take a chance on Zion and move Domantas Sabonis, even if I like Domantas Sabonis, I feel like the answer has to be yes, because we know what the future looks like without a foundational piece. So you should be willing to take a chance, whether it works out or not, on the Kings getting a foundational piece. I do not feel like Ja Morant is a foundational piece, which is why I would not make that move. I do feel like Zion is, which is why I would do basically whatever I had to that makes sense to get it done.
Well, I do think there is a second step to this, which is, so if you're Portland and you get Zion, right? Say he's not a foundational, he can be a number 1 on a contender.
Yeah.
Does getting a Zion and getting players who make you competitive then put you in a position to say, hey, in 2 years when Jason Tatum asks out of Boston, or in 2 years when Paolo Banchero asks out of Orlando, or whatever, or Giannis asks out of Milwaukee, are we in a better position to convince one of those foundational pieces to then come and join our team? That's kind of the tough thing that I think some of these teams are weighing, whether it's the Heat, the Bucks, the Hawks. I think the Heat are the biggest example too of, can we get to a place where we convince one of these superstars to come play for us?
And it's as Stephen A would say, it's Miami. So I think they feel like they can.
But if they can't, I mean, they haven't been able to do that since Jimmy Butler got there, right? Jimmy Butler was not supposed to be the foundational piece. They were supposed to get a player to go along with Jimmy Butler, and it just never happened, right? They were trying to get Dame. They were trying to get James Harden.
They were trying to get Donovan Mitchell.
They were trying to get Donovan Mitchell. They were trying to get Bradley Beal. Like, there was always supposed to be another guy, and it just never happened. So I think Miami, Milwaukee, Memphis, Atlanta, they're asking themselves, do we have a chance to get one of these superstars? And if not, are we better off just going to the bottom of the lottery?
916 says, I'm late to the conversation here, but are you not worried about the fact that Zion only plays 50% of the time? No, I am. But what I'm saying is, what I'm talking about isn't really the Kings' current ownership model. Their model is to kind of play it safe and live in this facade that you're going to compete at a high level when you're really not. What I'm talking about, if I'm going to make a move for Zion Williamson and Domantas Sabonis is part of that move, I know what Zion could be, and I know what Domantas Sabonis could be, and it gets to a point in this league where you either bleep or get off the pot. And if you don't have a dude, you're getting off the pot. That's what it is. And we know that. And the Kings don't have a foundational piece right now. So Domantas Sabonis plays more than Zion Williamson. He's put up better numbers than Zion Williamson in total, right? Rebounding, things like that. And you can depend on him. But you're looking around trying to find someone.
But in the only season Zion played 60 or more games, he started in the All-Star game.
Yeah. It's a gamble, but we're either fighting for the good old 7 seed every single season, or you take a gamble and maybe you miss. But are we tired? If they're not going to do the rebuild thing, at least take a big swing. Are we tired of just praying for I am, and I only been here 2 years. I'm tired of praying for that damn 6 seed. I am.
So I think you inadvertently said the two words that matter the most in the Zion conversation, which is right now. Right now doesn't make sense. Come next summer, if the Kings end up, again, I'm not wishing this. I hope Doug gets multiple years and they succeed. If the Kings end up in the 11 seed next year and we get to that 2-year window for Sabonis and we got to decide, are we going to keep this thing going or are we going to go our separate ways? And Zion is still on the Pelicans and the Pelicans are getting more and more frustrated with him and Dumars wants to put his own imprint on the roster. Maybe next summer it makes more sense to do the Zion for Sabonis thing. Right now, it doesn't make sense. And quite frankly, I don't know if it makes sense for the Pelicans to abandon the Zion Williamson experiment.
Well, I think, it's funny because they did move on from Brandon Ingram. So the Pelicans don't really have a plan. And I would look at a Herb Jones or even they're not going to. Trey Murphy's probably there. Trey Murphy's their Jalen Johnson for the Hawks. They're not moving off of Trey Murphy. But I think if you're the Pelicans, you can't afford to go through another season where Zion possibly doesn't play. So I think the Pelicans are going to be pretty aggressive because if Zion, very simple, Zion goes through another season of this not playing trash that, not trash, he's been injured, but not playing situation then people like me, not that I have any power, but then there might be some teams, okay, another year of Zion injury. This might be the best time for the Pelicans to strike because the Warriors were interested in Zion. A lot of teams were interested in Zion this season. They go through another one where you might not be able to dupe anybody next season is what I'm saying.
But which direction do they go is the other question.
The Pelicans?
Yeah, let's say they trade Zion. Do they go with the let's get 5 first-round picks, or do we go the let's get Bam Adebayo and see if we can make it work? I don't know what direction they would choose.
I think teams like the Pelicans and the Hornets are just habitually tanking. And they had their opportunity to not tank, and Zion couldn't stay healthy. Brandon Ingram couldn't stay healthy either, and they couldn't figure it out. Brandon Nunes, some strong words when the Doug Christie announcement happened. We will tell you what Brandon Nunes had to say. Also, what are we doing with Anthony Edwards? We got playoff talk as well. Allen Stiles, Sacktown Sports.
Sacramento weather is brought to you by Fidium Fiber.
I'm Tamara Berg in the KCRA 3 Weather Center for your Tuesday, staring at mostly sunny skies, feeling a very subtle south breeze and temperatures plenty warm. Highs today will peak in the mid-80s. You can expect overnight lows into the low 50s. Get the latest forecast on the KCRA 3 News and the KCRA 3 app.
It's about time they
fix that pothole.
Invented better windshield wipers.
Made an internet that just works. Fidium Fiber Internet, starting at only $30 a month. It feels like Fidium. Offer available to residential customers only. Terms and conditions apply. See Fidium.com for details.
It's the final days of the spring sales event. Drive home your new Honda before the deals and the new Hondas disappear. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop.
Looking to own or lease? During the spring sales event, drive a brand new Accord or Civic. Visit us today at folsomlakehonda.com, your one-stop Honda shop.
As a family-owned and operated dealership since 2009, customer service is our #1 priority. Our customers love doing business with us, and you will too.
Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop.
Only one radio program captures the excitement of hunting and fishing as it happens. The award-winning California Sportsman with Sep Hendrickson. Only California Sportsman takes you where the action is, live on the water, live in the blind, and live with the top pros and experts in outdoor sports. California Sportsman with Fishing Hall of Famer Sep Hendrickson is your premier destination for all things outdoors. Sep's Saturday Morning Outdoors. Ultimate Bass and California Sportsman, 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. Saturdays on Sacktown Sports 1140.
It's what you wait for all week. The three-pointers, the rebounds, the thrill of every shot. Win or lose, it's the hope that keeps you coming back. The dream that this time, it might be your year. And so you represent with anticipation and with pride. Because when the pressure's on, your support is everything. That's why the NBA store is here to support you. Check out the largest selection of official NBA gear at NBAstore.com. A Fanatics experience.
Sacramento's premier country music festival, Country in the Park, is coming back May 16th and 17th at Cal Expo with Bailey Zimmerman, Billy Currington, and more. You'll enjoy food trucks, rock walls, and a mechanical bull, line dancing, and more. Single-day GA tickets start at $52 at CITPFest.com. Country in the Park, May 16th and 17th with Sky River Casino, Hop Valley Brewing, and Naturewood Home Furnishings. Find out more at CITPFest.com.
Hello, Sacramento. I'm Emran Pilati, owner of True Sports Cards and Collectible Store here in Rockland, California, and the host of the True Sports Cards Show that airs right here on Sacktown Sports 1140 every Saturday from 10 to 11 a.m., where we discuss the latest trends, hottest products, and deliver exclusive interviews with other industry leaders. And don't forget to visit our shop, True Sports Cards, at 6661 Stanford Ranch Road in Rockland and see what we have for all your sports card and memorabilia needs.
The IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship returns to Monterey's iconic WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca, May 9th through the 11th. Enjoy the high-octane mix of international drivers, cutting-edge prototypes, and GT sports cars racing wheel to wheel. Buy your tickets now at WeatherTechRaceway.com.
If you've been looking for an SUV that combines luxury, comfort, and off-road capability, look no further than the most awarded SUV ever, the Jeep Grand Cherokee at Sacramento Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. With 470 foot-pounds of torque, a 6,000-pound towing capacity, great gas mileage, the 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee at Sacramento Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is the perfect SUV for all your needs. See for yourself why people are coming from all over to Sacramento Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Centrally located across from Hagen Oaks Golf Course, it's the place where a handshake still means something.
Get ready for Monster Truck Madness, featuring Rockstar, California Kid, Identity Theft, Spitfire, Reverse, Titan, and Monster Truck Rides. Saturday, May 10th with 2 back-to-back shows at the San Joaquin County Fairgrounds. Shows at 3 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. Grab your tickets now. StocktonDirtTrack.com. Live and local.
It's Allen Stiles
On Sacktown Sports.
I struggle to believe that Scott Perry, known for his league-wide connections, solely made the decision to keep Doug Christie around. If, that's bold print, if the new GM didn't get to pick his head coach, they're repeating the same mistakes yet again. That was Sacktown Sports' own Brendan Nunez. He responds back to, and this is a separate thread on Q&A. Are we running it back? Somebody asked Brendan. Brendan says, nah, I think Perry will get to shape the team a bit, probably change up some of the top of the roster. Wouldn't be surprised if some guys ask out now outside of, says some guys, plural, but I think we've all kind of pegged DeMar DeRozan as being that person. Not sure who else could be in that conversation or would be in that conversation. But Brendan Nunez, getting a little spicy on a Tuesday as far as whether or not Scott Perry worked by himself or if ownership also said, hey, well, we like Doug Christie. I mean, did anybody think that Scott Perry was going to make this decision by himself? Because they essentially told us what it was. I know Scott Perry stood up there last week and his phone was ringing incessantly and hell, we're going to see what else is out there. Doug's done a great job, but I did fall for it a little bit. I fell for it, but I didn't necessarily believe it. He had me convinced that, hey, maybe he is going to open this thing up. But I didn't actually think that, not to the point where I was surprised when I heard it was Doug. So there was just no new information. I never thought when Doug, and that's kind of how you brought it up too, Kyle, them deciding to go with Doug, it was never going to come off like it was because of what came out from The Athletic and what we all knew. It was never going to come off like this was Scott Perry's decision by himself, even if it was. Somebody, people chiming in, what if he just really liked Doug? Maybe, but it's never going to seem like that because we know that Vivek made Monty McNair essentially hire Doug. He made Mike Brown put Doug on the coaching staff. We know this. So Scott Perry, like I said, the things that he said definitely align with what Doug has said and who Doug wants to be as a coach. but nobody's going to believe that Scott Perry acted by himself. That's just not going to happen.
You are never going to be able to convince us that it wasn't. Unless
if you had a full-blown interview process, people would feel the same way.
Well, if you'd had a full-blown interview, you mentioned it earlier, if you had a full-blown interview process and they would have ended up hiring Doug at the end, it would have been like, well, now you've just pissed us off even more.
Exactly. You just wasted everybody's time.
And possibly pissed off the Van Gundys.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And who knows? Do they even get in trouble by the league, right? What happens?
I mean, there's no Rooney Rule expectation in the NBA. You can hire whoever you want. LeBron hired his podcast co-host as the head coach.
That's right.
Okay? There's no rules.
And he yells and cusses, so he's a good coach.
Yes, and he also did TV for like 8 months.
So he's a good coach.
And had a good podcast.
That's right.
Maybe Doug Christie should do a podcast. Maybe we'd feel better about it that way.
I don't think I want that from Doug. No, thank you. Yeah, no, let's just get this team back on track.
I mean, they did essentially hire a radio host 4 years ago as the head coach. JJ Redick was doing podcasts 4 years ago.
I want to they both did podcasts essentially.
Yeah.
Let's get a Scott Perry and Doug Christie show. How about that?
Sure.
That'll make people feel great.
Good media training between the two.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Former team broadcaster and former guy. What was it?
Hoop Genius.
Hoop Genius. Yeah. Don't forget. I had to drop somewhere. I'll see if I can find it. Where he's like, don't forget about my podcast.
Yeah. Don't forget about it. But from Brendan Nunez, I struggle to believe that Scott Perry is known for his league-wide connection, solely made the decision.
Don't forget my podcast.
Decision to keep Doug Christie around. If the new GM didn't get paid or didn't get to pick his head coach, they're repeating the same mistakes yet again.
Don't forget my podcast.
We knew this. People. I can't wait to have Brendan on Thursday because we knew this.
Well,
I guess that doesn't change Brendan's point, but we knew this.
The problem was the process. Again, I mentioned it earlier. An hour after that presser on Wednesday, Brendan Nunez came in and sat in that exact chair right next to you and said, it's going to be Doug. Don't let the conversation dissuade you. Everything he's hearing is that it's going to be Doug. And 6 days later, it was Doug. We didn't hear a single name who was considered.
No.
We didn't hear a formal interview.
Just that it was ringing. The phone was ringing.
Again, we don't know for sure. If it walks like a duck and it talks like a duck, it's probably a duck. And they probably did this because it was a mandate. And like you talked about earlier with, I believe it was Ishmael on the phone, this was probably a term and condition of Scott being hired.
Right.
So at least if Scott was told, hey, we're doing it this way, great. I think the part where people have a problem with the process is that most NBA organizations hire the general manager, and then the general manager runs basketball operations, including hiring the coach.
Okay. What do we think is going to happen in Denver? So Denver, they have an interim GM and an interim head coach, right? They move on from what? Both of them? Because this is what good organizations do, so they got to move on from both of them, bring in a new GM, and the GM gets to pick the coach, right?
Well, first of all, I don't think Denver is a good organization. But second of all, I think they're going to hire a new GM because originally Kroenke didn't name an interim GM, and then they eventually had to name someone. So I think they're going to hire someone outside the organization for that. I think Denver's a good example, though, of what we're talking about, like why it doesn't make sense. Because remember, Tim Connolly was the president there, and he hired Malone. And then when they lowballed Connolly, he left to go to Minnesota. This was about 3 years ago. And Calvin Booth, who was the assistant GM, essentially their Wes Wilcox, became the GM. And Malone and him butted heads because Malone was like, I've been here longer than you. I think we should get X, Y, and Z player. He thought they should get A, B, and C player, and they had that headbutting situation. And that's probably a good example of why there should be a clear organizational hierarchy. Because otherwise, it's like, if Scott didn't have the authority to hire a coach, does he even have the authority to fire Doug?
I think this is what I'm just not maybe I'm naive, but I think that they had this agreement, and I would hope that this is where it ends. Do I have any reason to believe that? No, not really. But I would like to believe that this is where it ends, right? It was, okay, you're going to continue on with Scott Perry, you're going to continue on with Doug, and that's going to make Domantas Sabonis and Zach LaVine happy. And then after that, if that doesn't work out, Scott, that's all I ask. That is what I want to believe. That is what I want to believe. That's it. So everything else, it's kind of doesn't really matter. 916-339-1140. Before we get to our crosstalk with Whitey Gleason, Bill wants to be a part of the conversation. What's up, Bill? What you got for us?
What I've got is that in hiring Doug Christie, we're hiring a man that's on a mission. He tried his hardest to win a championship in 2002 on that team. He's been on around Sacramento for a number of years now in various jobs. He likes Sacramento. If we hire somebody else that's a retread that's been for others and comes here for a paycheck, he doesn't have the same passion that Doug has. And then Doug made the all defensive team, 4 years?
Yeah.
We say the team needs defense. He likes Keegan. He likes Keon, even Carter. And he likes those guys that can play some defense, but also have some offense. If you give him a training camp, a full season, I mean, he's going to change the whole concept of the Kings. And if you look at his 27-24 record, he tell me when he had a game where he had the top 9 guys all available, he had to mix and match the team throughout that whole half of the season where he was head coach. And then he lost his point guard at the trade deadline and had to try to coach without one.
Yeah. Thanks for the call, Bill. Great stuff. Bill brings up a great point. We're about to get into crosstalk with Whitey Gleason, so I want to kind of bookmark this for tomorrow. And Whitey can steal the segment if he needs to, even though Whitey doesn't need to take segments. He's a professional at this. But is anybody actually mad at the hiring of Doug Christie? Not the process, not that Vivek's hands were on it. Is anybody actually mad at the Doug Christie hiring?
Well, I can't be because I don't know who the alternatives were because there were no alternatives.
But that's not what I'm asking. Is anyone saying, I didn't want Doug as the head coach? We've heard all day about the process and this and that. But if you didn't know what the process was and you found out today that Doug was the head coach, who out there is actually upset about Doug getting another year, 2 years? That's what I want to know. And everybody has just complained about the process. Nobody's actually complained about Doug being the head coach.
Well, we talked about this last week. Tampering only gets, meddling owners and tampering with the team only makes people upset when you disagree with what the person did.
But this is interesting because I don't know that people do disagree. It's just they're tired of the fact that it looks like non-basketball people are making basketball decisions, even if they agree with them.
That's why you've seen a lot of our favorite Kings Twitter personalities say, I don't like, quote tweeting Brennan, which went a little viral. And it's like, while I agree with Brennan, I also think Doug is going to do a good job. And most of the sentiment is like, I like Doug and I think he's going to do a good job. I just don't like the process of how we got there.
Whitey Gleason joins on the other side. Allen Stiles, Sacktown Sports.
You never know what you might hear when listening to a Sacramento Kings game.
Out of Keegan, going for another triple. Man, is he feeling it. Keegan, can he do it? Yes, there's number 11, Keegan Murray. Keegan steps back. He just knocked down his 12th three-pointer, a Kings franchise record. He's got 45 points.
Never miss a moment of Sacramento Kings basketball with Sacktown Sports and the Sacktown Sports app.
It's Carmichael Dave talking to you about my good friends at American Energy. You're in the Sacramento area. You know how the seasons work. They are a-changing right now. So American Energy wants to help you stay warm for the rest of the cold season, but help you stay cool during the warm season. Best way to do that, make sure your system is operating safely. So right now is the time to take advantage of half off a tune-up, $24.50. They cut that right in half, and if you want a diagnostic, guess what? You can't beat free. If it's free, it's me, and now it can be you. And also, it's the end of the season blowout. $4,000 off a new system plus any rebates. That $4,000, that's a direct drop from the sticker price. It's a great deal. Check them out at theaeway.com for an instant quote or give them a call at 916-520-9990. That's 916-520-9990. Tell them your good buddy Carmichael Dave sent you.
Call 916-520-9990 now.
Saving for retirement was tough enough for us.
Yes, and navigating markets can be challenging at times.
I understand. That's why at Fisher Investments, we take a disciplined approach with your investments.
Tell us more about that.
We take an active approach to money management, positioning your portfolio for opportunities we see ahead.
So all your clients get the same portfolio?
No, we tailor your portfolio to your individual goals and needs.
What about communication? We don't like being left in the dark.
We check in regularly to keep you informed on the markets and your portfolio.
Which means you'll help us stay on track.
Yes, our goal is your comfortable retirement. And as a fiduciary, we always put your interest first, because we do better when you do better. At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
Power Business Technology is proud to be a 100% independent, locally owned and managed Toshiba copier dealer. Local ownership cuts out the red tape, allowing ourselves to never be too busy to personally answer the call when our clients need us. Recognized for excellence in service execution, training, and customer service, we're proud to be named a Toshiba ProMasters Elite Dealer since 2021. Contact us today for all your business printing needs at 844-POWER-BZ. That's 844-769-3729, or visit us at powercopiers.com.
I'm Ken Korak with your Green and Gold Report, brought to you by Comcast Business, powering possibilities. Well, the A's call-up of last year's first-round pick and fourth selection overall in the draft, Nick Kurtz, is not surprising, but his rise through the A's minor league system is pretty astounding. Kurtz has played in only 32 minor league games, but the numbers are eye-popping. A .336 average, 11 home runs, and 37 RBIs.
Comcast Business helps turn today's small businesses into engines of modern business. It's how restaurants become reliably up and running neighborhood favorites. It's how retailers become seamlessly restocking, cyber-securing must-visit shops. And it's how healthcare offices become data-managing caregivers that we all depend on. With reliable connectivity, enhanced cybersecurity, advanced fiber solutions, and Wi-Fi backup, Comcast Business is powering the engine of modern business.
River Cats baseball is back, and the Cats Pass is your ticket to every home game of the 2025 season. With unbeatable value, guest add-ons, and more, secure your season-long Cats Pass with the Sacramento River Cats at rivercats.com.
And of course, there you go. Mm-hmm. And everybody is upset at the process. I don't want you to do the show before the show, but I just wasn't surprised at anything. And I know how people feel about Doug. Their two highest paid players wanted Doug. The owner already liked Doug. Scott Perry probably knew it was going to be Doug when he took the job. I didn't get not that I think some fans just want to complain. I understand. I guess I'm separating the fact that I understand you might not like the process, but didn't we already know that this is what the process was going to be?
Yeah, which seemed pretty obvious to me. My guess is that a lot of fans are so sensitive to the notion that Scott Perry might not be able to do what he wants to do that they're tying all that into this, and maybe they feel like this was a dog and pony show, like it was going to be Doug all along. But I understand all that frustration, and it's really worry about what will happen. But I think in the short term for now, I think the Kings are in pretty solid footing.
Yes, I would agree. And
relatively speaking, as solid a footing as they can be on right now, given everything going on.
Yeah, and how I kind of ended the last segment asking, is anybody actually upset that Doug is the coach? Not the process.
Some people are. I'm not, but some people are.
Give me names.
Well, I don't know. People.
No. I'm not saying you. I'm saying the Van did it. I didn't want Doc Rivers.
No.
Taylor Jenkins enticed me, but again, I know he said his phone was ringing incessantly. Scott Perry did, but we don't know who was calling, right? We don't know who was interested. Maybe Taylor Jenkins said, I no, thank you. If I need to tell you by next week, no.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's the tell. If there is a tell, it's that, within 2 weeks or next week, I'll have an answer. Well,
right.
Okay, then that's fine. But I think we kind of knew where this was going.
Yeah. And we've seen that if it doesn't go well next season, it might not still be Doug. Right. So all's well that ends well, but hopefully this is the start of something. The Sac State Hornets, we were joking about this, Whitey, and the whole GM thing with Shaquille O'Neal. I think Steph Curry was the first one that popped up. Am I missing someone? He was GM of Davidson. That's the first one I remember this year.
Well, Woj was the first I remember.
Yeah, but Woj is actually doing stuff, though.
I know. I'd never heard of that position before.
Right.
If I had, I hadn't.
And isn't that what Wes Wilcox is actually doing? So you have the real ones.
Sure.
Like Wes Wilcox. And
Trey Young is also doing it at Oklahoma.
What are we doing, man? And what happens? Shaq's son this is his third school now. What happens after Shaq's son transfers next season?
You're just assuming that's going to happen?
Why not? Stojakovic's son changes every year.
Well, he has two. Forgive me, I don't remember his son's name, but didn't he go from Texas Southern to Florida A&M to?
That's right. Now he's at Sac
State.
State. So what happens then? Shaquille O'Neal. What happens then? So I don't know. Everyone, breaking news, really? Really?
I have a different view of it. I understand what you're saying. I just remember 2002 and all that so vividly that to me, I don't really have an issue with Shaq, except that it's like, hold on, Sacramento and Shaquille O'Neal, that's great. We can get along now, but we were the bitterest of enemies.
That's right.
The bitterest of enemies.
Yeah.
Like natural enemies. And it's fine now. It's like, okay, but still, I'm just not as willing to, that's great, the big fella.
At least it's not with the King. I mean, it's not nearly as bad as
when he was
Brady.
A part owner of the Kings a few years ago.
Yeah,
people
so he's
going,
already
it's great.
done
I was
that.
like, no, it's not. It's the ultimate capitulation.
Yeah,
but that's kind of an old man. Get off my lawn.
Well, I always feel for Kings Raiders fans, and now you got Tom Brady running around the Raiders organization, and your job was
same type of dynamic.
And then you don't even draft Shador, so you don't even need your quarterback. You got the dude from North Dakota State and Geno Smith. I mean, what are we doing?
Don't forget Aiden O'Connell still hanging around.
Go away.
Is this time for Allen Stiles? What are we doing?
We did that yesterday.
Oh, okay. Right.
No, we did that Friday.
Yesterday you did.
What are we
Styles
doing?
Or out
in style, out of style was yesterday. It's off season, man. Kings can't win a game, so we got segments.
Okay,
we got
good.
Well, they weren't doing a lot of that during the season.
No, they weren't doing a lot of anything. What else is coming up on the show today, White?
Jerry Reynolds going to join us today. He was supposed to join us later in the week, but given today,
I was going to say Jerry is he a co-host? He's on twice a week.
I wish. No, it's just we moved him this week to get his views on today's breaking news. He's a big Doug Christie supporter.
And as I was telling you, Giants, Padres, huge series coming up.
You were telling me? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the Padres have been scuffling a bit.
They have been, yeah. Half their team is out, and so they're not scoring runs. So the Giants set up. They're playing really well, and they're set up for a nice couple of games in San Diego, where I don't know how it'll be because Padres are drawing better now, but I used to go down there for some of the games, and it was like Pac Bell South for the Giants.
I said this last week, but the Giants, they played this perfectly, didn't they? They get Buster in the front office.
Mm-hmm.
They get the A's out of the Bay.
Yeah.
And they're turning back. It's odd year, but they got that even year magic cooking up.
And they'll get to go on the road for a wild card game.
All these and they're going to win it. All these teams or all of these other players that have been available. Jung-Hoo Lee is now starting to heat up. And now all of a sudden, the A's are in Sacramento, but they won't wear Sacramento stuff.
They got a winning record, though.
They do have a winning record. We talked to Eric Martin's third base coach today in our weekly Coaches Show segment. Go check that out on YouTube. And then they're going to go to Vegas. These fans are going to be staring, looking around, saying, "I guess I'll be a Giants fan."
Some fans may do that. Others will not.
All they need is some. And they would have won. It's crazy how they cooked this up, Whitey. Nasty work, but great business. It is.
Yeah.
It's a monopoly, Whitey.
For years,
trying to tell you.
As you know, the A's were trying to move into San Jose. And
I know.
Said, nope.
And you told me the story that the A's used to have
that
San
territory.
Jose.
Yeah.
And then when they tried to get it back, the Giants said,
well, they gave it up when the Giants were going to move.
Right.
And Walter Haas, the owner of the A's, is like, it's better for the area if we have both teams, so you guys can have that.
Wow.
And then the Giants like, all right, thank you.
And then they
Dollars
said, hey, can we have it back?
Ain't getting it back.
We do the same thing with the siblings, right? Hey, can I have that back? No, you gave it to me. Sorry, it's mine now. Well, Whitey, I know you got a great show coming up, and I'll be tuned in. I got a meeting with the boss, but after that, I'll be tuned in.
You don't have our show on during your meetings with the boss?
Oh, it is on.
Okay.
Only if Jerry Reynolds is on.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Only if Jerry Reynolds is on. Thank you all to callers, texters, Sack chatters as well. Drive Guys coming up next. Whitey Gleason, Kyle Draper, Jay Johnson. Kyle, great job as always. Until tomorrow, secure the bag. Like to be.
Vis-a-vis. Don't forget my podcast.
Gotta go. Visit SackdownSports.com and join the Sackdown Sports 1140.